Hello, welcome back. We're here. And
hello, everybody.
We're here with Tim Davies from Fastjet Performance, who has reminded us that call signs are for children.
Tim, how you doing?
Yeah, it's 1 a.m. here. You guys are lucky to have me. I'll tell you right now. I've got some tea, so we're good to go.
We're very honored.
GTG.
And God save the king.
Thank you.
Disclaimer for anything that is said.
Yes, everything we say on this show is a joke.
For legal reasons.
Such trouble already. You don't realize it. This is the UK you're talking about now. Seriously, it's a different world over here. It's changed lots in the last month.
We're like a half a step behind you. Don't worry, man.
Yeah, we're behind Canada, aren't we?
So welcome. Thanks for joining us at 1 o'clock in the morning because we can't do math. Is math? Are you guys metric?
No, we have something called maths. So we use pure and applied math, but you guys are half as intelligent. You use pure only. So it's a bit different. So you say math only. And when I say math, because it's more convenient. I get told off the whole time. So yeah. Neither. I shouldn't have done this. I should not. I should be in bed now. My wife, she's tearing me apart. So you're lucky to have me.
Gonky, we found someone to bully you, and the internet has now rejoiced.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, we've got Tim on the show. I don't have to worry about it, man. Send all hate mail to.
We need to talk about some large countries.
No, dude, I'm done.
Anyway, so let's just get right into this, Tim. Since well, you know, it's the waking hours of the morning. Welcome. And your website, Fastjet Performance, you provide Shadowlands online flight training. Is that correct?
That's right. Yep, that's right. It's an online flight training school. Yeah.
And you got a YouTube channel as well?
Yeah, Fastjet Performance as well. Yeah, it's doing all right at the moment, actually. Yeah, it's
excellent.
It's good.
Excellent. And you flew. We'll get into your flying career, but we'll have the link in the description and the bio and stuff like that. So go check that out. But thanks for joining us. And the first question I always ask is, how to become a pilot? Like, what sparked the bug for you to become a military pilot?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because I keep telling people that all military pilots have that same thing. It's like this obsession in it when we were kids and stuff, you know. So yeah, I was the same, no worries. So when I was a kid, I was making little airplanes out of pens and rulers and stuff and looking skywards and everything like that. And my dad was a Royal Marine, and then he was a police officer, and he kept wanting me to go into the Marines. And it got to this one day pretty much where we're in a garage in northern France at the 40th anniversary of the D-Day landings. My father was involved in a lot of the organization of British ex-servicemen and everything going over there, and we're in this garage, and he said, do you want to buy a little plastic toolkit and help me fix my BSM 20 motorcycle which used to ride, or And I said, no, I'd rather pick that airplane set, which is made of paper. You can make a little paper airplane set of airlines and stuff like this. And that was the first recollection, I think, at the age of 8, that I had kind of an interest in aviation. And from then on, I don't know about you guys, we go into something called the Air Cadets, which was the Air Training Corps at the time. And then I was in youth organizations all the way through. And this is the thing, sometimes I say to people, you can tell when people want to join the Air Force because they're obsessed by it. I ended up joining the Navy, by the way, but so something happened, didn't it? But so it was all that kind of thing. So yeah, basically it was the obsession, and I read everything, and I watched Iron Eagle like 27 times, and maybe Top Gun once. You know, Dougie Masters, Chappie Sinclair, all that kind of stuff. Still watch it. We had an Iron Eagle night in the school the other night, in fact, at the anniversary of Iron Eagle, which came out before Top Gun by about 4 months. And we watched Art Scholl in the session and everything. So that kind of stuff is incredible. I'm still obsessed by it still, even though I teach in the sim now.
That's awesome.
So you went through the academy, like as far as commissioning and your degree? I mean, did you go? Is that the only way in the UK?
No, we don't have an academy like that. No. So the way we work it. So behind me here is Britannia Royal Naval College. That's Dartmouth, which is the Naval's college, the Naval Officer Training College. So I went there. I joined the Navy at about 24, I think it was, about 23 and a bit. I can't remember now. And then I spent 5 years in the Navy in flight training, about to go onto the Sea Harrier. And we lost the Sea Harrier. We decommissioned it in 2003. So I was the course that was, I think, 2 courses away. I was at RAF Valley at the end of our attack weapons unit, and my air combat wasn't the best. My ground attack was great, but my air combat wasn't the best. And there were about 6 or 7 guys in a row, and I think I was the third about to step onto the OCE there, the operational conversion unit. I can't remember what you guys, where you train on the jet, you know. And they decommissioned the jet in 2003, and the Air Force turned around to us and said, well, literally the Air Force, the Navy said, look, we've got nothing. We have to retrain you on helicopters now, because from the very beginning, of course, you know, and then the girls aren't going to like you, are they? Because now you're a helicopter pilot, right? So we're like, oh, no, crazy. So the Air Force turned around and said, well, if you want to stay, you know, as a commodity to women, we'll come across to us and we'll put you on jets. So about 9 of us went across the Air Force, and the Air Force said to us, you know, what do you want to fly? And I said, I lived in Portsmouth my family were from Portsmouth, right in the southern of England. It was a naval town. And so I said, well, I'd like to go and fly Tornadoes in Scotland, which is as far away as you could get from there, just because I'd never
Awesome.
I flew Tornadoes in Scotland, and it was just epic. It's like one of those things where you look back, it's never going to happen again. I was just lucky. So I went and flew Tornadoes in Scotland as a bomber pilot. I stayed 15 years in the Air Force. Yeah, it was epic.
Wow.
What are the training aircraft? Like when you were first training, what aircraft did you initially fly?
So we had something called the Slingsby Firefly, which you guys tend to crash a lot, and had a big issue with it. I don't think you understood spin recovery training at all, did you? So, but we did spin recovery training, so we tend to not kill our pilots. So we had that. So the Slingsby Firefly we had the Grob Tutor that we sort of did a bit of grading on in the Navy prior to that, which is still a popular airplane. We still fly a bit of those in the Air Cadets, and then went on to the Shorts Tucano, which everyone was built unique by Shorts in Northern Ireland. So when I was in training and the rudder bar broke, they realized that they couldn't just replace the rudder bar, because every aircraft had built slightly differently, a bit like the Nimrod, you know, bespoke kind of airplanes. We should be proud they made everyone slightly different, really, you know. So that took a long time to fix those airplanes. I had to really kind of, so that was like a couple of months hold, went skiing, that kind of stuff. It was epic again. And then I went on to the Hawk, of course, Hawk T1, which is what I trained on, and then onto the Tornado GL4. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's cool.
How long is that? Like, how long does that take to, like, now I know you started Navy, switched to Air Force, but typically how long, when you first went through, did it take to go from a guy checking in to your operational squadron, in your case, like a Tornado?
Yeah, it's really different now, right? So I still advocate joining the military to a lot of people. I speak to men and women and minorities and all sorts all the time, like literally all the time. They come to my school and everything else. But back when I did it, it was different. And we have to recognize the fact that I joined the Navy back in '98, and I was the epitome of failure when I went in. Like, I'm not an academic dude whatsoever. You'd never guess, right? You know what I'm saying? So I failed a lot of my exams and shit. So I failed my it's called A levels. It's like going to college and doing so I failed those pretty badly. I got an N and 2 E's. It was like neat. And so the Air Force told me to go away forever. And so I joined the Navy instead. The Navy are great. I'll tell you
Gosh.
what the thing about. Well, the Navy are brilliant. I'll
This
tell
is
you why.
Gonky and UK Gonky.
It's like you're like my UK
Oh,
brother.
seriously, you're like,
It's British Gonky here.
yeah. I
Keep
wasn't
talking.
very
This is
good.
good.
How do you feel about Mike Tyson? Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
So, well, the thing about it was, so what happens with the Navy's very well. Okay, so I'm going to just say this now, but I know it reverses and everything. You know, sometimes it's the Air Force, sometimes it's the Navy. The Navy was very interested back then in the person as opposed to the academics. So I was at university, and I'd felt a lot in my life, like as drugs and everything. You know what I mean? So I'd felt a lot in academic, especially. And I was in something called the Officer Training Corps, which is like your ROTC. I think it's like an army. Yeah, I was doing long range reconnaissance patrols, and we're having a great time. And I was drinking. I met my wife there at university. In fact, she was an infanteer. You know, she's one of the 2 girls in infantry. I keep reminding her. I thought she was a bloke, right? It's dark, like we're dark on exercise. She had to throw this grenade, and I'm smashing into her, like, throw the grenade, and she's like, I'm a girl. You know, I'm like, all right, okay. Fucking. So anyway, yeah. So she threw a grenade. I'm married. I've been with her like 30 odd years. I need to change. You know, they get old, don't they? You know what I'm saying? We got to move on a little bit when they get a bit. I married her because she was pretty, not well. You know, hey, whatever. I ended. So I then basically either passed my exams or I applied to the Navy. So I revised my degree, and I managed to pass the degree with a 2-2, like a Desmond, as they call it, a working man's degree, and a drinking man's degree. But in doing so, I failed the Admiralty interview board to get into this place with one of the worst scores they'd seen. And they said, go away for a year. Go away. I don't want to see you again for a year. And so I ended up working somewhere, you know, Estee Lauder perfume factory, like most of us do, right? You know, that's what we do, yeah. And I thought it was just me. And then the Navy, basically, well, my dad said, give him a call after 6 months, ask if you can come back. I gave him a call, and I'd done loads of work, and eventually got into the Navy because they liked people that weren't very clever, apparently. So when I joined in '98, from me joining, going into Dartmouth, which is fantastic. It was like Hogwarts or something, like Harry Potter movie. You know what I mean? I had no idea. All these kids there from public school, and I'm like, everyone's running around naked, and so I'm like, what the fuck's going? So it was a crazy time. I thought, is that how people? So and from '98, I started flying training about a year later. We did about almost a year at Dartmouth with sea training and stuff. Started flying training about a year later, and then I hit the front line about 2003. So for me, it was about 3.5 years. Now, that's not normal at all. The reason that it was so quick is that the Royal Navy buys its places off the Air Force. All training is done by the Air Force in the UK. So the Navy just buys slots. So whenever things broke, like when the rudder bar broke on the Tucano, or when courses were held back, because all courses are staggered and everyone doesn't, you know, move on, we all have to pause. They just flicked me onto the next course ahead, next course ahead, next course ahead. So I got through it in like the minimum time. It's about 3.5 years, which is great for currency, right? It's great for continuation. Because I wasn't the best pilot in the world. So I'm like, okay, I'll go on the next course and everything will be fine. But most Air Force guys took about 4 years, 4.5. And now they're taking 6 and a bit sometimes, which to me, I don't understand how you can maintain the motivation for that. It's a real issue that we have over here at the moment.
So it sounds more like your training pipeline is more like the Navy than our Air Force, because like for our Air Force, well, I'm talking my generation, not now, because now it's who knows what's going on. But it used to be a 54-week stringent. You had to finish. You had to stay on timeline. You graduated your class, versus what Gonky went through in the Navy, where it's kind of a choose your own adventure. You know, show up. You're on your own to study. Is that more how it's like there, where it's like you're a big boy. You're responsible for being prepared and on time? It's not as structured as kind of what we would do here in the U.S. Air Force.
You had 54 weeks from the start of your flying training to the end of it. Is that what it's
from the day you start academics in the specialized undergraduate pilot training phase 1 to the day you get wings? It's 54 weeks.
So it'd be like to the end of your Hawk training.
Not to get. Yeah, because after that you go intro to fighter fundamentals, you go to SEER, and then you go to your major weapon system. Which,
so what is this coming off the T? You taught on the T-38, and so coming off the end of the T-38, that's the end, and then you're going on to the unit, whatever the OCU is called for your F-16 or Hornet.
Yeah, flying training unit, the FTU. So you would, for a fighter track, you'd go to intro to fighter fundamentals, which is another T-38 school, but you have wings. And then from there, you'd go to your F-16 basic course, or F-18, or whatever, F-15. And that usually 4 to 6 months, depending on the airframe. So it's a 2 year. It's 2 years from start to finish. But just to get wings for us in the Air Force, it's very stringent, but and like what Gonky went through, it's kind of whenever, like you talked about. I mean, it could be 2-3 years.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, it could be. Yeah, it's not down to the student though. Most students would just stagnate and be playing Xbox in their room, you know what I mean, and go to the bar and getting smashed up like lads. So no, they wouldn't leave up to the student. They'd never go to work. Honestly, they just wouldn't. I mean, why would you, right? Because you might fail a trip. You know what I'm saying?
Gonky made it through somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
Shocking.
His mates are pushing him like, we are going flying today. Yeah, no, so it's not left up. I mean, it's a regimented program. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And wings happen at the end of what is now the T6. We bought the T6C.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I think the Air Force got the A, Navy got the B. We went and bought the C because #lads, right? You know what I mean? So I actually flew out to Wichita and actually looked at all the aircraft. I'll tell you a funny story. We're going to deviate because we can. We're just
go ahead.
Absolutely. No.
So
yeah.
the last job I had in the Air Force, because I was getting a bit old and I was getting a bit bored of flying. So they put me on this job about requirements. I had to bring in the requirements and run in what's called the United Kingdom Military Flying Training System, a civilianized partnership between Lockheed Martin and Babcock Defense Systems. Lots of money. We privatized it all because, well, the Treasury did. It was the wrong thing to do. We said at the time, but it happened. So whatever, right? But we got new airplanes. So it was kind of cool. And one of the aircraft we bought was the T6 Texan, which is very nice. It's now parked on a beach in North Wales, rusting away as we do. Even I went out to Beechcraft at Wichita, and I met some lovely blokes out there, some TPs, some Navy mates, and some Air Force mates, some great guys. And they had these 10 jets. We call them jets, don't we? Because everything's a jet, right? So there's 10 T6s on the line being built in various stages of let's put wings on, let's paint them. And so I didn't count 10. I counted like about 13 of these airplanes, and we'd only bought 10. Well, we hadn't bought them. This private company, Ascent Flight Training, had bought, well, Affinity, technically. It's a bit complicated. It's all this civilian shit. We're not interested, right? So anyway, the civilians have made some money. So we had these 13 jets, and I'm counting them, having gone out there to check the airplane out, make sure everything's cool. And there was a woman there who ran the whole program. Very clever woman, lovely woman. And I went up to her and I said, how come well, they bought 10 airplanes, right? So, we bought 10. And you're building us, because they've got Royal Air Force written on the side, you're building 13 of these airplanes with Royal Air Force. And she turned around and went, yeah, they got their figures wrong. Their numbers are wrong. We've built 1,000 of these airplanes and you're not going to make it with 10. So we're building you 13. It was like blatant like this. You've been down to Wichita. It's a small little airfield there, you know what I mean, where Beechcraft operate. And she obviously knew her figures so well that she knew the people that had bought this airplane, the civilian company, had messed up. So I came back. I made a film on it, didn't I? I made a film on YouTube about this, because when you drive in, you can't even get into the base. Like, I had my camera up there, stopped there with the camera. They were like, turn that off for a start. I'm like, that's going to be a great video. So I had to kind of just get on about this and take some secret stills. But yeah, they had it all wrong. And the Air Force had a go at me. They were like, fuck, we're going to have to spend extra money now buying these extra 3 airplanes, which they had to. They were right. Beechcraft were right. Now they bought them. I think they bought 4 extra in the end. So they're all, another 4 of them rusting away at Valley, stuck on a beach, just getting nice.
What's the C model? What's the C model difference?
It's just better than what you guys have. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
It's just awesome. It's the convertible, It's the C model had yeah, exactly. It's got the extra turbos. Yeah. It's the C model was, I think, the B model had update avionics, and then the C they just yeah, I think it had a HUD, and the C model has some like screens that you can play snakes on or something like that. So it's pretty cool. But they're struggling.
The only video game Gonky knows what it is. So they're great.
It's got a minesweeper option as well. You can press that one. The C6 though is pretty cool, but they're struggling to find guys to fly it now because it's stuck on Valley. I don't think it's got clearance to fly over water yet as well, because what the Air Force does with the, when you land in the water, it should release automatically the chute if you want to keep your pilots alive, which traditionally we tend to. It didn't have those when it first came in, even though we campaigned for it. The Air Force decided it was going to do it once the jet arrives. Really sensible option, of course. Let's wait till it's in service and then we'll just mess everything up. So it came in, and of course it didn't get done, and then it couldn't fly over water. So now at Anglesey, it's got to go all the way across the bridge. Literally, you may as well drive a car across it, and then it's got to start operating in North Wales. So when you finish a sortie, you've got to fly up towards the Menai Bridge across there. So imagine flying that. It's not the fastest thing in the world anyway, is it? You know what I mean? It's like, geez, my life. So most people don't particularly want to fly the airplane because it just takes ages to go anywhere.
So hey, to cross this body of water, we got to take the bridge in this airplane.
Yeah. I mean, I know. Whereas, Valley's it's on the southern tip of the island anyway. You're just straight over the sea. One of the runways is straight over. Runway 19, you're like, literally, if you're aboard, you're in the sea, you're on the beach. And high-speed abort was through the barrier onto the beach. I used to take flip-flops just in case. You never know. It's going to happen one day, right? Little bucket and spade. You know what I mean?
That's wild.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
Wow. But you flew.
I need
So,
the T. Sorry.
Gonky, what's the difference between T-45 and what they? It's pretty similar, right?
I don't know. I was going to ask Tim. I know the Hawk in general has some engine issues now. Is it this? We had the Rolls Royce. I think it was like 5,500 pounds of thrust. I mean, is that the same as the Hawk you guys used?
Yeah, I think you got a little bit more thrust because you have blown flaps on the T-45 because you do stupid things like landing on ships and stuff. And you have the air brakes come out the side, so they don't hit the deck. And
so it was unstable.
Yeah,
when you
it was.
Boards, it would pitch up.
Yeah, well, I got some dudes flying that out in Meridian, is it? They teach out. So some of our guys went across there. One of my guys, actually, Chris, he's a dude. He married an American woman. He's a Scotsman. Married an American woman, and he is tooled up. Right, wherever he goes, he's got guns in his car. He's like, he's walking around like this everywhere, like goes shopping with it because his wife wants him to be armed. So everywhere he goes, he's like hips down. Honestly, he keeps sending me pictures. I bought this, and you guys modify. Like I bought this Glock 17, but he's modded slide rail and his laser shit going on. It's like, so the modifications cost twice as much as the pistol. He's addicted to it. It's like a hobby. So he's over there flying at Meridian now, and he's been there for like a decade or something, I think. So
yeah, well, I mean, what is he? How do they compare? I've always wondered.
Yours is heavier.
Yeah.
Ours actually, this is the airplane down here, the Hawk T2 now. The Hawk T1 is over there that the Reds still fly. That's the only unit flying the airplane in the UK. The T1 now is the Red Arrows.
Is the big difference avionics in those?
Yeah, so this is retro. My wife's got an MG Midget, which is an old car from the 60s. And when she flew in the back seat of this, one of my men took her flying. She actually was saying throughout the flight, "Oh, it's got the same dial as this. It's got the same dial as my car. It's the same. It's like the Bakelite shit." And my pilot's like, my guy in the front's like, "Would you shut up a second?" So she was like calling that shit out. So she reckons. Yeah, it didn't impress her at all, actually. I mean, she kept going, "Oh, there's a mountain over there." He's like, "Yeah, thanks." He came back. He was like, "Your wife is just destroying me." So, but yeah, it's very similar to my wife's MG Midget. This one here is it's all synthetic. So we used to say, look, the synthetics on the Hawk T2 is not just the aircraft. That's just part of the package of synthetics. There was a desktop trainer, which is stick and throttles to work out aspects and some other switchology stuff. The guys didn't really use that too much coming through flight training, but they did a couple of sessions. And then up from that, there was another desktop. That was a desktop trainers. Then there was the flying training devices, which I think were 8. Sort of you can sit in them, but not in your flight kit, just your flight suit, not your G pants or anything. And that was a touchscreen thing, and that had the whole display and everything on there. You could work through the menus. So guys used to go and sit there any time of day and do air combat and stuff, even when they were like on stalling 2 or something, you know. So it was a very accessible device. Anytime, 24 hours a day, they'd go and sit there and practice checks and actually get airborne and fly around, and it was good. But it was on a TV screen. Although down the side, things were very similar to the aircraft. And then we had 2 full mission simulators where big domes, you know, old school projectors, that kind of stuff. And they climb in up a ladder and they go in there and they'd be in their full G pants, their LSJ life jacket and their helmet and everything else. So that was the 3 stages. Then the 4th stage was the actual Hawk itself, which again was synthetic radar, synthetic, had TCAS on there, TCAS 2, had a synthetic radar warning receiver. We could actually synthetic countermeasure suspending systems, so we could put surface-to-air missile systems in here, and we could activate them from the rear seat. Obviously, the mission planning system. Yeah, it's a great airplane. It just keeps exploding now because it's a dick.
Well, that's frowned upon. So you were teaching these students advanced tactics. So you're talking. I mean, if you can do synthetic radar, you're teaching them intercepts and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's right. So I teach the full Hawk syllabus now. So this whole syllabus here, which is kind of a derivative of what we taught on the Hawk T1, I teach the full syllabus on this now in my school. I just use the F5 and F18 because they're the most developed. Well, the F18 and F5, they kind of complement each other in a strange kind of way, as in the F5 is quite easy, well, quite hard to fly, isn't it? But it's quite easy to operate. Whereas the F18 is quite an easy airplane to fly, but when you get into the menu structure and everything, it's quite hard to operate. So those 2 aircraft complement each other quite well. They're quite well developed in DCS, even though one of my students said, "Oh, CW doesn't like DCS anymore." Like they squinted you right up. Like right up. Honestly, they did. I was like, seriously. And they were like, so I was like, okay, boy, I'll have a chat with him then.
Yeah.
And
these things. Jeez.
So I was actually when I went through as a student, obviously I was on Hawk T1. When I came back, I was actually I was an instructor on T1 as well, but on the advanced flying training, so teaching stalling, spinning, navigation, formation, all that kind of early work basically. And then when I came back as an instructor on the T2 via Afghanistan with the United States Army, which are lovely people, by the way, I then came and taught on this as the tactics instructor, which of course, when you know what you're doing with advanced flying and then someone says, come and be the tactics instructor, there's a lot of reading to do, isn't there? So that was a bit depressing, but I was then the flight commander doing that, trying to work out what the hell I was doing for about 3 years. But it was, it's good for that. Yeah, it's a really good, it's a good platform, and it is a good airplane. It's just that there's problems with engines, and there's problems, I think, really with the way this was kind of built as opposed to the way that was kind of built. It's just a little bit more fragile, and that was a bit more of a workhorse. So yeah, it is what it is.
So let's talk about the Tornado, or as some, why do some call it the Tornado? What's the Tornado?
You're gonna roll some men into here now. Let's bring the men in.
Let's talk about the real mission.
Yeah, you want to get down.
My wings move.
Yeah. It's like, I have fire.
Like a tomcat.
I have wings that move with fire. Yeah, no, it's funny because the Tornado.
Goose back there. I mean, let's talk about it.
Everyone wants to fly a Tornado, right? Because that's where the men live. You know how that rolls. It's the Tornado was fantastic. I mean, we got lucky, right? Because this is the days I stopped drinking 18 months ago because that shit was messing me right up. But when we were on this airplane, that's all we did. We just flew low level around Scotland in the dark, and we wonder why everyone became alcoholic. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. In the officers' mess up there, the O clubs are slightly different. The officers' messes in the UK, there's always like in Scotland, there's a bothy bar, accessible 24/7, 365. You know, you can go there, you can get smashed up. And when you're flying low levels in Scotland on the terrain following radar, you're looking at a little screen like this big, going, "Yeah, everything's fine. There's a little green line telling me I'm going to miss the mountains and stuff." And you do that for like an hour and a half, and then you come home and your eyes are like, "This shit." You can't go home. Like your wife's gonna like, "What the fuck?" So you go to the bar and you just get turbo wrecked. Like everyone just goes to the bar and just wrecks. There's people in there before you. You walk in there, people like slouched over, just destroying themselves through alcohol. And I did that for about 4 years. So it kind of worked out quite well. But it was a great airplane to be on. And there was 4 squadrons up at Lossy. There was 4 squadrons at Marham, 4 squadrons at Lossy. So there's more Tornado squadrons when I was on the Tornado than there are. There were 4 Tornado squadrons. So there were more Tornado squadrons in the Royal Air Force, bomber squadrons. So Tornado GR4, not even F3. The F3 was the interceptor. The F3 was the fighter, but it was interceptor. It never fought anything, did it? It just went up and came home again and landed. But there were more bombers in the Royal Air Force, more GR4 squadrons than there are now entire Fastjet squadrons in the Royal Air Force. Oh, wow. So we're talking some old school Air Force stuff now. You know, we had GR4, F3, we had a Jaguar, and we had Harrier back then. When I went on that, the Buccaneer had gone out of service. The guys had just come back from Germany. So the Tornado squadron just come back from Germany. So all those guys were just old school legends. And you end up flying with those for 4 years around. I mean, if someone said, what's the best flying you could ever do? You'd probably say, I want to be an F-16 dude based out of Ilson or an F-22 guy based out of Hawaii. Right? That's the kind of stuff we're into, right? You know what I'm saying? You're not going to get a better tour than that. I know the F-15 guys out of Japan, whatever, they have a great time. But other people say, well, I want to be a Tornado guy back in the early 2000s flying out of Lossiemouth in Scotland. And that's what I did. So we're kind of lucky for that. A few people died, but, you know, that always happens, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow. Did the GR4 not have any air-to-air capability?
What are you saying? I had me in the cockpit. You know what
I mean? I guess if you've got a forward-firing gun and you in the cockpit, it has aerial offensive capability.
He's never defensive. He's only slightly less offensive.
I am the capability. What's that? You know what I'm saying? That's abusive. I came on here. I thought I was going to make friends.
Gonky bullies our guests. I'm sorry.
You want to bring that? You want to bring that straight out?
I'm just
okay. Bullying. You're lucky you didn't call it a small jet.
That's harsh.
Did it carry a heater?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, we had a couple of those bad boys. Yeah, we did, but mainly we're a bomb track, right? And we're a pretty fast one, and we're pretty low and fast. And so we had a gun. We had the 27mm cannon in there. They took the other gun. It did have 2 guns on the GL1. They took one away when they put a flare pod on it instead. So forward-looking infrared for your guests on there. And then they obviously hung a load of bombs on it, massive tanks and some defensive aid stuff on the wing. And we just rode around in this big chariot of death, the swinging messenger of doom, basically. Look at the size of the fin on that thing. You know, it's incredible. You can see it from a mile off, basically. It used to reflect all the radar waves from the surface-to-air missile systems. It's like, just bring that shit on now. Because that thing would just obviously beam them back. So, but no, it was good. So yeah, it was good. I mean, the wings moved and everything, right? So who wants that?
When were you flying the GR4?
2003, 2007. Did
you take it downrange?
Yeah, did 2 tours in Iraq. I didn't do anything kinetic, though. We were doing some reconnaissance work near to the Iranian border. My defense department says I can say. So as the sun came up, yeah.
When I was on the Stennis 07, we had a group of Tornado GR4 guys come out.
Did you?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. They brought some of their tapes. Like, y'all use is it Sniper Pod? Which pod?
Well, yeah, we went through every pod because we just got bored of the pods we were using. I had a TAL pod at the time. They went TAL, they went into sniper. There was something before the sniper, wasn't there? That the Harry used quite a lot of lightning, something.
Lightning, which is
lightning.
So they bringing that out, were they? Yeah, they had everything on that thing.
Yeah, it was. I mean, they were showing us their FLIR footage, and we have the AT FLIR, but like their FLIR could zoom in. It was super. It was awesome.
The pod was good. When I left, we had I had the TAL pod, which is called thermal imaging and laser designation pod. It was on the jet when I was there, and it wasn't good. The navs in the back were just genius at this because pilots would go, "What are you looking at again, mate?" They were like, "Whoa, you see these people here?" I would go, "No, I don't. I don't see what you're talking about. I don't know what you're doing." It's like, well, so without those, we'd be lost. And it was quite funny. Sometimes you drop the bomb, you're like, right, yeah, 10 seconds, mate, 10 seconds, yeah, 3 seconds, yeah, stores. They'd be like, no, I've lost it. Well, you better get it back. You better get it back. Because that bomb's going. We lost. I'm going to tell you this right now. This is where I get banned. I'm in jail already, right? Everyone in the UK is in jail already, so that's fine. We know that. So it just depends what level of jail we go to.
You got the flag. God save the king.
That's right.
Fine.
King and I, we're friends. We're friends. The King and I are friends. I've got some commissioning scrolls over here. I've got a Navy commissioning scroll, and I've got an Air Force one. And I think at the moment that's the only thing keeping me out of jail. I'm not even joking, because the jail and ex-Air Force dude, it's going to be some pretty serious shit, right? But honestly, when you put stuff online, they're coming for you under this new government. It's funny. We'll talk about that in a second. But I was at the Barry Goldwater Ranges. Remember those ranges down there? Yeah. So we're on a detachment down at Davis Montham, right? So we're hot and high for us anyway, because I think that's like at least 1,000 foot up, and the tornado doesn't like that, you know. So, and we're dropping these bombs, and we dropped bombs in a 3-ship, and I had the boss. I was flying. Who was I flying with? I was flying with a dude in the back, and we had the boss in the formation, and we had someone else in the formation. We dropped these 3 paveway Scrinsons, whatever they were, on a laser des. 2 of them, well, they all came off, and then 2 of the navs were like, we can't see our bombs anymore. We can't track it. And 2 of the one bomb hit. We saw 1 bomb go boom, and I think 2 bombs went and killed a whole world of Mexican kind of tourists coming across the border. We don't even know where they went. But don't put that on your YouTube thing, because I'm
too late.
I'm definitely. I'm blaming. It was Gonky told me. He told me. He did it. So yeah, I don't know where they went, but yeah, some crazy stuff went down out there. Seriously, good ranges though.
That's a real thing. When I was at Luke, they would note them the range when there were Mexican nationals hiding in the target area.
Yeah, they do hide in the crates and everything, don't they? It's pretty sad.
Yeah,
it's wild. It's wild.
Good. So, crew coordination wise, you've got, do you call it a Wizzo or a Nav?
At the time, when I was on it, it was a Nav, and then they transitioned into Wizzos because they wanted to change their name for some reason. We didn't listen to them. I don't care who they are, right? But they had some kind of Nav mafia thing where they got together, had a cup of tea, and went, "Should we change our names? They're so important." And they changed their names to be weapony, didn't they? Weapons system. So, but we had a lot of women on the jet as well, and they were just absolute fun. So we had up at Lossiemouth, we had 3 strike squadrons. So we had 12, 14, whose boss has just said they can't use the name Crusaders anymore. Have you heard that?
I watched that video. I'm very sad. Yeah.
Seriously, it's awful, isn't it? This is what the Air Force has turned into now. This is seriously, we've promoted all these people on the back of wokery, which has probably come from you guys, in fact. Thank you. And therefore, we've got these weak people. Yes, obviously Gonky's done. We've got these weak people in command who acquiesce to every single little complaint people make. So unfortunately, they changed the name. And then we had 617, of course, the Downbuster Squadron. And 617 didn't particularly want women on their squadron for some reason. And so the other 2 squadrons soaked them up. So all these girls came across to us, and they're all backseaters, and we had a great time. Because they're lighter than us, of course. When you're on things like, what's the Alaskan? It's Cope Thunder, was it? Cope Thunder out there? Ilson? It was Cope Thunder, and there was one was out there. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's
There's
Cope
a
Thunder.
green flag. There's a red flag, Alaska.
Maple flag, another flag. Whatever the Alaskan one was, you could pin your navs up to the wall. They had bearskins there, so we used to staple our navigators. And it was funny because all the Canadian pilots felt sorry if they felt like we were abusing these girls, which we kind of were. And they'd come and feed them lager like throughout the evening from a bottle. So these girls would be pinned to the wall. Like, this is not funny, but feed them lager. Apparently, you can't do it anymore. It's against some rules and some shit. You know how to
frowned upon.
Yeah, you know how to do it. They get upset. Apparently.
Well, I mean, it's very similar. You guys have, the equivalent of squadron bar, right? We had the squadron bar in the actual squadron, so that's but we had naming ceremonies because we had call signs.
Why'd you do
that? Hey, why don't you enlighten us, man? Why don't y'all have call signs?
Because we're not abused children. What are you doing? I mean, what happened to you at school? You just get beaten up the whole time. Here, my guys in my school are asking me why you got your call signs. Because I said, well, Gonky, it's like,
Oh boy.
we have an animal here called a donkey.
Oh boy.
Donkey, like a horse, but it's smaller and it's used for towing things.
That's me.
And they were saying, well, is it like an American donkey? Is that what, is it, do you call him a gonk? Is that what a gonky is? I don't. So I promised I'd find that out, and I promised I'd find Mover's real name out as well. They asked me to find out that.
Cornwallis. It's Cornwallis.
Cornwallis.
Obviously, that's
like
the C and the
Cletus.
W.
I just said it was
Cornwallis Mover.
Yeah.
Cletus.
Exactly.
Yes.
Cornwallis and
Obviously,
Gonky.
They know what it is, by the way. They told me, but we're not going to say anything because it's secret, innit?
Super
right.
secret.
Yeah.
So we don't have naming ceremonies, no. Although people do have nicknames, like you might be called Shaw or something, and so they call you Shawsy or something. You know, that's how creative we get. And of course, if someone does join a squadron and say, "Are they calling me this? Please don't call me it," then we call them it more. But we don't have a naming ceremony at all.
That's
Yeah, don't call me that.
kind of a call sign. I mean, what do you put on your name tag?
Well, mine was Tim Davies because that's my name. I mean, not being funny, honestly.
Shocker.
Badge is here somewhere. It was Tim Davies. But you would have on your badge, you'd have like Gonky written there. You had a woman on called Mace, didn't you, earlier?
Yes, we did. We did. We had
Was
Mace.
she the display girl or something? Was she doing all the display?
Thunderbird. She was a Thunderbird.
Oh, was she the first girl into the Thunderbirds? Is that right?
No, she was like second or third.
I liked her attitude actually on your show because she's just sort of going along with it. She's like, yeah, they're just going to speak at me for an hour and a half. I'm just going to sit here and listen. And I thought she just seemed like perma tired. You know what I mean? She's like, oh, yeah. Yeah, we've got 70 shows over the year, so I don't really want to do more fly pass. We don't have to. No, it's fine. She was just great. I thought she was brilliant, actually. So she would just have like Mace on her badge, would she?
Yeah, well, we vary it up. Some places, you just use it on Fridays and it would just be the call sign. Our last place, it was call sign as your first name and then your last name. And then we do first name Fridays.
Whatever you're feeling, honestly, Tim.
Hey, free spirits, right?
Free spirits. All about freedom here. Whatever name you want on there, you got it.
That's it. I love it. Yeah, we did.
And it goes on the jet, unless it's really bad.
Yeah,
so,
it's really bad.
Unless it's like Ass Face, for example, he had to be renamed because his name couldn't be placed on the side of.
Yeah, we don't have enough jets to name. Put our names on.
There's one I get in trouble for every time I mention it because people are like, "You're racist against the Japanese," and I'm like, his call sign was the Nippler, and we called him Nips.
Nips.
Yes. But everybody's like, "Oh, you're talking about the Japanese kicking your butt in BFM." I'm like, no, it's just the one guy. It's just this one guy I'm talking about.
Mover just got us demonized. Thanks, dude.
You're welcome. Just don't say Chuck Yeager.
Yeah. Oh!
Yeah, we had a guy because when we went to flag, I did a couple of flags. One was normal flag, red flag, and one was the black flag. It's a bit secrety flag, which we can't really talk about, can we? It was in the dark. Do a red flag in the dark, just to make it a little bit more hazardous. You know what I mean? Because not enough people died on the last one, so we're going to turn the lights out and then we're going to fly low level and see what happens. Some crazy shit like that. But on that one of our guys, an F3 mate, a friend of mine, called Rob Quaife, in fact, lovely bloke actually. He actually did really well in the Air Force. Really good guy. We had some good guys going through, and he was given one of the first leads in this flag, a red flag. And he walks on the stage because all you guys have got your nicknames, and we had none. So I probably shouldn't tell.
What are you talking about?
I probably shouldn't tell this story as well because he's going to hate me. He's going to watch this. So he walks out on the stage, and it's like, a big red flag is, right? It's massive, and he's like trip 2 or something. So he's got this huge lead, and of course, no one knows what they're doing. Everyone's a bit, I don't know what's happening. You don't want to be embarrassed. You want to make. So he's built this kind of stuff, and he's given himself a nickname, and it was I think it was Quiffy, whatever. So it's Rob Quaife, so Quiffy, and in America that means something pretty bad apparently. So he walks out, and he's like, "Yeah, my name's Rob Quiffy Quaife," and like the room starts erupting in laughter, and all the British guys are sitting there going, "Yeah, what's going on? What's that about? Like, I don't know what's going on." And eventually someone shouts him and tells him what it is, and he has to delete it from the slide. But, so after that, no one made up nicknames anymore. We didn't have any call signs.
It's just cultural. It's like the Navy. Every day in the ready room, they'd be like, quit your wanking. And I'm like, dude, that means something different.
Yeah, it does.
Across the pond. That is not what's happening here.
What does it mean in America?
Complaining. It means complaining in a Navy ready room.
Yeah.
Does it really?
Yeah, that's not what it means, though.
I use that in my school now with the American dudes. That's awesome. I'm gonna write that shit down. I got some notes here. Fucking taking some of this down. Writing wanking down there.
Yeah.
That's
Mover and
done.
Gonky
We're
said.
done. Yeah, Gonky said
Yeah.
this. And the
He
Gonky said that.
said, yeah,
That's it. He said this.
unequivocally.
I've taken some notes down. We're good. We're okay. Next time you come on my show, we talk about it. You know what I'm saying?
At 2 a.m.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. Because it's only like 2 a.m. That's interesting. I never knew that. Yeah, there are some things like you guys when we were over there. You couldn't say like heads up. We said heads up a lot.
No,
like,
that's Air Force thing.
So
yeah.
that's an Eagle
Training.
thing. Well,
Yeah.
it's a
Is it?
fighter.
And
It's
right
originated in Eagle. You can't say head.
Oh,
Can't say box.
Could you not
When
point
you're-
then as well? Is that?
Elbow.
Air
You got to
Force.
point with your elbow because they say you can only point at what you're going to kill. So I don't want to kill you.
dicks.
So
Bunch of dicks.
I
I love
elbow.
that shit. It's bollocks. There's no one calling
Elbow.
out that bollocks. Like, dude, you're being a fucking twat. Stop it. What's the matter with you? It's like, why does no one say that? Like, even
Well-
stop in a second. Surely it's.
It's called groupthink. One of us. One of us.
Yeah,
Tim, we actually do make fun of the Eagle community, just so you know.
Right, everyone does.
Yeah,
My
but
wife
we
met a few of
can't-
those in a bar.
To the level that we actually do make fun of them would get us demonetized. So we're not.
Yeah, exactly.
We're
My
not
wife
gonna-
she met some C guys, some Charlie drivers, and they were different.
models.
Like they were different guys. Those guys' ego was planet size. Like how you squeeze it in that cockpit. But the Eagle, the E guys were lovely apparently. But the C guys.
I'll tell you one that's on that note, but I hope it doesn't get us demonetized. When the Viper dudes would taxi by the Eagle squadrons, they would switch to sec, which would pucker the nozzle.
Oh, brilliant.
So
awful. Yeah, you guys are done. I'm done as well now. That's it. Thank you. At least I'm not gonna get kicked with the police.
do I hear knocking at the door?
Yeah,
Because we're just
constantly.
God save the king. Of course,
That's gonna help. That's gonna help
as,
a lot.
as always.
Brilliant.
awesome.
Wow, I don't
Well,
even
did
know. Yeah,
did
go
you-
ahead, Gonky.
So, like, how were you ever an IP in the Tornado, or did you take it to the end of its service and then
I
moved to
didn't
the
know.
Hawk?
No, it came out in 2018. I went to the disbandment of the Tornado down at Marham, where they just put the jet over a hangar and ripped the roof off. Pretty much, the speed of that thing was ridiculous. And I knew the pilot flying it. He was a great guy called Ian Dornan, that I flew with on here as well. 12 Squadron was a weird squadron. It picked up wastes and strays. So 12, 14, 617, and 15 at Lossiemouth, and I was on 12. And we didn't even know when we gone through the whole of our OCUs, the whole of the training on this. There's a 15 squadron Tornado down here. That's a training squadron, which is just legends. We had people on this, so that these guys were IPs. They weren't QFIs. There's a fundamental difference between an instructor pilot and a qualified flying instructor. So instructor pilots or tactics instructors lived on the OCU. Very knowledgeable guys. They were all legends of the force. So as you went there as a baby student, on Tornado, you were looking at these guys going, these guys are just heroes. Everyone in the Air Force knew about these heroes. So it's great. You know, the old boys sitting there smoking away in the crew, like when I was flying Buccaneers and all that kind of stuff. It was mental. So I left the jet, and then the jet stagged on till 2018 with various upgrades and stuff. And then in 2018, it came out of service. But yeah, 12 Squadron here was full of wastes and strays. That's why it picked up a bunch of weird people. And when I actually got streamed onto a squadron at the end of 15, go to the bar, get streamed on, and there were two guys with little green badges stood in the corner. And I remember my mate Pikey and me. He's called Pikey actually, good boy. He went on to the
Call sign Pikey.
He's called no, his name, I can't tell you his full name, but he was Pete, and his surname Simpson. Yeah, to Pikey, but he went on to the F-15E in the end. Actually, he went on to the Strike Eagle on the squadron that had the the 4 fatalities in Afghanistan with the high dive profile. Remember those at night?
Oh yeah,
remember those guys?
Yeah,
that was his squadron he went on to. Yeah, that was wild. That stuff. So we got streamed onto 12, and we were looking around going, "Who are 12? Who are 12? Never heard of 12 before." And we just hadn't heard of this squadron because they've been deployed so much. And those two guys in green came up to us and went, "Hello, we're 12 Squadron. We're waifs and strays and full of nerds." So I went on there instead. But yeah, the jet went out in 2018 basically, and then all the men left the Air Force. Obviously, that was what happened.
Well, did you guys? So that brings another question. Did you guys have any U.S. pilots on the GR4 as part of exchange?
Yeah. So I had a U.S. Navy guy from an E6, one of the Prowler guys. He was in my backseat over Iraq on my first tour. Lovely dude. So yeah, Cos. And Ange, his wife. So he was there. So we had loads of guys all the time. That was on the GR. That was on exchange. We had Sean. He came from, what was he flying out in the States? I can't remember. He was backseater though. So he was with us as well. And everyone had, the US Navy we seemed to have more US Navy guys and US Air Force guys on the Tornado GR4. The F3 had the Air Force guys that were fighter guys, obviously. So we had backseaters mainly from the US Navy. I don't remember any US Air Force guys on the GR, but there probably were different squadrons, you know.
The Strike Eagle guy, or the guys that y'all sent to the Strike Eagle, were they navs or pilots?
No, the pilots mainly pilots.
Okay.
I think we had both, but the guys I knew were pilots. Yeah, yeah. So they did all right. You know what I mean? They said it was a little bit strange. They weren't allowed to see some of your secret stuff. They were like, "You don't understand. We just don't care. You know, we're just going to the bathroom. You guys, you can't come in this room. Like red lights on. You can't come in here." They're like, "Yeah, the fuck that. I'm going to lunch. What's up?" You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's
like,
not that important,
no,
anyways.
I wish I could come in and see your secret stuff. Really, it's really interesting to me. Oh no, please don't let us. I'll be in the lunch hall. Yeah.
Oh, debrief's over. Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
I pretty much did my entire Fastjet Air Force career like that.
Yeah, that's the way to operate.
He can't be here.
Yeah, exactly. Where is he? He's busy. I had a guy do it. That's a sensible way of doing it, because I advise people to do this now. Like, not a work to rule, but we try. So I had a guy called Steve, really good dude, and he's flying now for British Aerospace on the Hawk still. But he had this thing where he said, "Look, I want to drop my kids off at school, and my wife's going to pick them up." His wife was in the Air Force as well. And I said, "Yeah, that sounds reasonable to me." It wasn't reasonable with the boss, though. The boss wanted this flexibility. Like, he wants the guy to be available 24/7, right? But Steve said, so I made it so that Steve could always drop his kids off or always pick them up, one or the other. And he would just kind of say, "No, it's 5:30 now. It's a reasonable time. I'm going to go home now." Whereas everyone else would be staggering on to like 7:30 or 8 in the evening. Like, "What's going on? Am I flying? Am I flying?" Steve would have none of it. And yet Steve and I got paid the same money. No one cared. When Steve left the Air Force, he got the same pension I did, right? So we kind of brutalize ourselves, thinking that we need to be there in case something happens. And this guy was like, "Yeah, whatevs. I'm just gonna go home and just do other stuff," which we should do, of course, if we're sensible.
Yeah. When I was brand new to my fleet squadron in the Hornet, the skipper, you go talk to the skipper for the first time, and he's like, "Dude," he's like, "when you're done with your work here, go home." He said, "Trust me, the Navy will get their blood out of you."
Yeah,
that's what he told me. And I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yes." He's like, "Don't be one of these clowns that thinks you're going to stay here longer than me, because you're not."
Yeah.
He's like, "As long as your work's getting done, good, go home." So
it's so hard though, isn't it? The new guys seem to, I guess they got a better attitude than us, or maybe they don't realize, but I say that you've got to save yourself. No one else is going to look out for you. I worked far too hard. Looking back on it,
it's a marathon, not a sprint, right?
Yeah, and it burns you out, and so we all get burnt out, don't we? It's silly. And I think that's why guys leave early, because they just get burnt out, and they're like, "I'm going to do something else." And it takes you time to adjust, the massive amounts of time to adjust as well when you come out. That's what I found.
So if you're a Fastjet pilot in the RAF, like what's the initial commitment? Like when's the first time you have to make that decision to stay in or get out?
For me, it was 3 years. Once we get our wings after what would be in the T6 now. So after what would be your basic flying training, is it, or basic fast jet flying training?
Yeah.
So after your T6, same thing. Yeah, we got our wings after that. So then we do the Hawk course, obviously, which is all part of advanced fast jet flying training. And then we do the TAC weapons on the Hawk as well. Then we do the OCU on this. And at the end of the OCU, there was a 3-year return for Tornado. When the Typhoon came in, they moved that to 6-year return. So you had to stay in for 6, technically. You weren't supposed to leave before then. That's what guys do now. I think F-35 6 years now as well.
Wow.
And I knew a few F-35 guys that have left recently, in fact. So they've done their 6 years, whatever, and they've left. I think I knew one guy that left after about 4. So I guess you can do that. But of course, it impacts your pension. I stayed in for 20 years. I would have stayed in longer, but I didn't have any break from the flying. So I was in the cockpit for my entire 20 years. I even tried going to Afghanistan to get away from the cockpit. That's how serious that shit was. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to go to war now because the squadron's too brutal for me. And so I went to, and that was on the ground. That was with the US Army. That was in a Stratcom job in Kabul, which was for 6 months, which is pretty cool. So those are nice guys, except you're armed the whole time. We don't know anything about guns, do we? You know, I remember when I was there, the guys felt so sorry for us. They would leave ammunition in my drawer. They were like, "They just gave me 2 magazines. This is Afghanistan. This shit's Afghanistan right now. We've got wars going on." Like magazines from my 6 Sal just pile up next to me like this. You know what I mean? I'm like, it's a one-man army all of a sudden. They felt really sorry for us. I'm like, "I don't know what to do with this gun. What do we do with this gun? You pointed at people and you put, I don't know. We've never done this." So what's a pilot doing with a gun? You guys, it's all like bred into you, like in kindergarten, isn't it? You go do shooting drills. You're like CQB or whatever when you're 4 or something. You're around buildings doing this, all this kind of stuff, being a Navy SEAL or some shit. But yeah, we don't do that stuff. You know, we just use knives and bad language. So
sarcasm.
Yeah.
Also, like you could do your initial, like for you 6 years or whatever. You could get out and get a pension at that point.
Well, you get part of a pension. The pension.
Okay, part of a pension. Okay.
Yeah. So my pension's payable now. I know you guys, when you do 20 years, that you get down to half pension or something. It's similar. It's similar, or half pay. It's similar to us, where we get 20 years, we get a payout which I guess would be $100,000. I'm trying to put it in American language, and that's obviously taxed the fuck, of course, because they're going to take the money out of that. And then we, why not? And then you get around about, say, $1,000 a month, decreasing, not index linked, goes down straight away until you're 65, then it goes back up again, and then you're dead probably because you're not going to last that long anyway. We all know that. So they're always trying to get the money out. And then some guys came around with a clipboard back in 2015. They said, "Oh, we got this new pension, and it's amazing, and do you want to sign on to it?" And everyone that was sensible said no. Okay, rods. And everyone that was not sensible signed up. And actually, the fire service in the UK, it's part of the public sector, just took them to court, and I think they won because it was ageist, because they're forcing everyone over a certain age onto this pension. Wow. The whole thing's a mess. Wow. Yeah, it's a weird country at the moment. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on here.
Let me get the banner. Yep. Hold on. We got a legal reason. It's a joke.
Oh, it's almost 2 o'clock in the morning. What's going on? Oh, yeah. I was tired when I said it. Don't lock me up.
You're gonna have a floppy at the door.
We're all going to jail anyway. So
they don't carry guns though.
Over here we don't know.
The police don't.
Oh,
we have armed response police officers that kick people at airports in the head several times, which is what I would have done as well. I did 2 films on that, and my video is instantly demonetized because we're trying to go against a narrative of the communities. If you want to get into this, we can get into this. It's a really
we're jumping all over. Let's talk about how you got into a YouTube channel, and this, like how did Tim Davies' Fastjet performance come about? And I'm assuming you were still in, or had you retired when this happened?
I came back from Afghanistan with the US Army, working in strategic communications back in 2011. And I saw in the military that no one understood what we did in the Royal Air Force. No one understood what we did. And UKMFTS, the United Kingdom Military Flying Training System, was failing really badly. It just wasn't working. So I was like, hey, don't worry about it. I know how to do this. We can message this to people, because I used to message NATO training mission Afghanistan under Lieutenant General Caldwell, Bill Caldwell, the 4th, with lovely bloke. And we messaged how the war was winning, or how we were training for the war being won, how we were training. And it was very successful. I used to meet lots of journalists and stuff. So I thought, why not do this for the Air Force? Air Force went, obviously, no. Why would we utilize your newfound skill? That would be silly, wouldn't it? Let's not do that at all. Yeah. I love that. I thought it was really funny. I was like, no, you don't understand. This is really important. We can do this. No, we're not doing it. It wishes it had now. Oh, does it wish it had? Anyway, so I went, oh, all right, I'll start a website then. I'll just put these. And I started really tentatively, like, I started off like, management or leadership? Is leadership important in the military? Or because all the bosses were mental? Or should we just embrace management? And it's really careful. And I used to get loads of abuse for it. Bosses phoning me up in the middle of the night. What is that essay you've released? All that kind of stuff. Went on for years. And then in the end, I just went, next essay, like after about 20 or 30 blogs, I just wrote, everyone's a fucking twat. The Air Force is shit. And just embraced it. Just embraced it. I was like, spears coming at me. And you realize I had some senior Air Force dudes like literally phone me up. But this is Air Vice Marshal your essay. My son read your essay. In fact, one guy traveled, I'm not even, this actually genuinely happened. I was in Bristol, working a job in Bristol, my last few years, 2016, 2017. An Air Vice Marshal, an Air Commodore, had traveled from London down to Bristol, and he'd come to see me about content I put on the internet, which was an essay on my Fastjet performance. You can read the blogs. It was an essay. I think I'd written an essay about 1v1 combat with a female student, and we just turned it together and we couldn't see each other. It was really simple stuff. Knock it off. Sanctuary, flow past, let's do it again. And I wrote about women in the Air Force and men in the Air Force and just capability. And it was a very easy essay. It wasn't anything tragic. Anyway, he'd driven down to tell me off. On the way there, he'd had chat to his son. So he sat down with me and said, I've come here to speak about your writing on Fastjet performance. I'm not too sure it holds the Royal Air Force in the correct light, blah, 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 blah. But he said, on the way down here, my son phoned me up and he said he'd read all your articles and he joins Cranwell tomorrow and actually he really likes them. So I can't tell you off, can I? It was literally that. So I was like, I'm a bit kind of stuck as to what you want me to do with this exactly. But people started reading them, and they read them because they were quite open and quite honest. I talked a lot about mental health. I didn't talk about alcoholism at the time because I was flying jets and teaching students. It wasn't really appropriate to say you're doing it when you can't see. It doesn't really work out too well, is it? Like, I'm using Braille to fucking work out what the fight's doing. So I left those essays out. I talk about it a lot now. So that's where it came about. And then from there, I had a small YouTube channel where I put some content on there, just from the cockpit a little bit. But you've got to be careful filming in Air Force aircraft anyway. So all the filming is done. Yeah, well, you guys have it worse than me. I mean, it's kind of like I just pushed boundaries. Just, GoPros have just come out. I just went, I'm just going to stick this here and leave it. And literally I did. Stick it here and leave it. I'm not going to touch it. If it comes out well, it comes out. I'll put it on. And when you tentatively put stuff on, and then and I'll tell you, the guys that squinny you up is your mates on the squadron.
Yes.
They're like, they're like, you think you should be doing that? It's like, what you really mean is you wish you had. That's what and you didn't. And actually the content was really good. Some of the stuff now, like the practice force landings, things like that, people still come back today, and guys all over the world will write to me and say, oh, I'm an F-16 guy flying out of wherever, and our profile is slightly different, and how's your profile? And we talk it through. So I'm kind of glad I did it. However, you take a lot of spears, and you guys take a lot of spears as well, by the way, and I can see it, and I can see sometimes the hostility you get in your comments. I don't understand why you place such importance in people that you're never going to meet, but you do, and that's admirable. You are very generous people.
We do our best.
I just sack them off. I sack them off. But I'm like, oh no, and a subscriber I've never met before has left my channel. It's like, so who cares? He's probably some mentally ill 12-year-old never going to see again. So are we allowed to say that? I don't know whether maybe we can. So yeah, that's why I started writing. That's what the website was about initially, and then now the website is more of an advert for getting guys in the school, where it's a thinly disguised flight school where we really look after guys' mental health. That's what we do more than anything.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I like me and Mover talk about it all the time back when we were trying to get in there. There was really no place you could go for any information about any.
Yeah, that's right.
You couldn't see what guys and gals were really thinking about the service, what was going on, what's it like, how do I get in, what do I have to do? I mean,
yeah, it's positive now. So guys write to me. I get a lot of people write to me. I don't answer the I'm 16, I want to join the Air Force questions. I don't answer that now. If you can't Google that now and find out the essays I've written, then you're not going to make it into the Air Force, full stop, right? So, there's some people that just shouldn't be able to breathe, really, let alone. I'm going to say that. I'm going to put that banner across the bottom again. But
we call them bomber pilots in the States. Tim.
You do. Yeah, exactly.
Is it this one or is it this
Bomber
one?
Pilot.
Is it breaking news?
That is breaking news. Yeah,
people that hate mail to Gonky.
Stupid people.
Yeah,
stupid people shouldn't fly jets. You're right to him, not me. So, but then the other people, of course, that I'm very interested in what I talk about the care aspect of flight training. So I talk a lot about care. So how do we care for people? What does care really mean? Because I think if we do nurture talent, then we can obviously grow that into something quite positive, and then we can have the really positive community as well. But there's a lot of people that are actually quite damaged from some aspect of either childhood or you could probably do it in whatever, it doesn't matter, college, university, but they are, they've had experiences, and it all rubs off on us, some micro traumas, whatever you guys in America, next microaggression word you want to make up, some shit like that. I'll fucking use it, right? Just keep making them up. I'll use them. So then, so the microaggressions that kids have. But if we talk about it in a care thing and a unifying sort of, we're going through this together, which is exactly what my school does. It takes guys through it together, and we expose people's weaknesses in a very understanding way where they can bring them to the fore, and they can say, look, I'm not very good at this discipline. And then it manifests itself. And actually, to be fair, they're having problems at work, or the marriage is suffering, or whatever it might be, then I think we get a much better product. And I think we get people staying longer in the Air Force than they ever were before. And that is a goal for me. I've brought more people into the services, I think, to be fair, than the services have ever done without, I mean, it's ridiculous. It just is, because I'm genuinely interested in people's sort of aspirations and goals. And that's obviously, and also because I wasn't very good myself, right? That's why when you go into instruction, when you're not very good, and you go into flight instruction, then you tend to do, I think, a lot better than someone that was probably quite gifted in the first place, because you failed most of the trips yourself anyway. So that's my
100%. I think it's a video you put out, Tim, about or maybe it's an article about failing the one gal on the trip that was really good, just so she would have some adversity in training instead of having adversity for the first time out in an operational squadron where it might kill her, right? That kind of thing. And I remember when I was going through, one of the sim instructors in the Hornet, he used to always, because I struggled a lot, dude DeWalt, he would be the guy, Gonky, the sim went down, we need to do it again. It's not his fault, sim broke, and give me another one. But he used to tell me, he said, man, he's like, the guys that learn how to face adversity and training usually end up doing pretty well out on the real airplane, because they know how to handle it.
Well, what is training for? We should be,
right.
Training. I mean, the thing about that essay did, well, so you guys understand it, right? I understand it because we've been there, right? The thing about that young lady, and she went on to Typhoon, and she obviously did very well. the issue is she was something like a grade 8 violinist or some shit, you know what I mean? She'd been the prefect in all the schools, all that kind of bullshit, you know what I mean? She played first team fucking rugby, and she was the greatest rower ever, and she ran the 100 meters faster than, you know what I mean? She was that kind of girl. Like, this girl, she was awesome, right? And yet she had never failed anything before, and she would have got through the course. She would have tripped through the course. She would easy 2s and 3s. It's 0 to 5 is our score matrix. No one ever sees a 5, rarely, but most people, you get through on 3s, you get 2s. You get 2 2s in a row, maybe we're going to just have a look at that next trip. We'll put you on a sim. But 3s all the way, you're coasting, everyone's happy, you're going to go and ride a Typhoon F-35, you're good. In fact, the early F-35, you need to be pushing a bit better than that. But so she got to the end of the attack weapons. I was the flight commander. She's funny, actually, because my wife was quite friendly with her, and we went kayaking with her. And there was one trip where at the end of this, she caused me a barotrauma, my second barotrauma, right? So bled out of the cockpit. Brilliant, bleeding again. That's awesome. That was her fault. That's her fault. But she so she was struggling on the simulated attack profiles, so the low level work in pairs, and the work cycle wasn't there, right? And she'd been struggling off and on a little bit anyway. She's on a course with 3 other dudes, and there was her, quite a small course of 4, and she just wasn't, she's going to get through, but she's probably going to die on the front line. So, at some point, and you don't want people to die, really. It doesn't look good for the Air Force. You've got to speak to the parents. So we decided to stop her early. I decided to stop her early. The guys came to me, my team came to me. She was flying with my team at the time, which were all instructors of instructors, so Central Flying School. So they were 12 guys that taught the other 35 guys how to teach, obviously. And so she'd obviously suffered. She's obviously doing that not that well that we'd given her my guys. So my guys were now teaching students, which they shouldn't really do. She teach instructors. So it was obvious that she was on that buffet. She's on the light buffet, right? She wasn't doing too well, but she wasn't failing. So we stopped her. I stopped her, spoke to her, and said, "We're going to redo this entire phase of about 9 trips." And of course, she's a bit upset, a bit emotional, whatever. And we reflew the 9 trips. We gave her a lot of briefs, and she did really well. And I flew the last trip with her on those 9 trips. That Lossiemouth coming in on detachment over the Moray Bowl, the sea there, and we had to get down. I had a bit of a head cold, you know how it is. So I'm leveling a little bit early, flying like a G, right? I think I was smoking at the time. I'm like, let's level about 4,000 here. I'm not going to tell you her name because she knows it's her. I said, let's level about. She's like, no, let's get down low level. Let's get down. The profiles are low level. Down 250. And of course, that last 4,000, the feet can be brutal, can't it? Because all the air's just. Yeah. So I'm like on the wing. She's like in this dive. I'm like on the dive looking at her going, this pressure's building up. And I level at 250 feet. And I'm like, the ear has torn itself apart again. I did it on Tucano once. So I'm flying this sortie, knowing I've got a high level transit back as well. Just going, this is wank. And there's like blood coming down here. So I see that as like her abuse, like, because I failed her 9 trips and she was flying, but she did well, and she's on Typhoon and she's absolutely fine now. So
yeah.
But no one understands that. So airline mates don't understand this. You're airline mates as well, but you're jet mates first. But the airlines, if you're passing your trips on the airline world, then you're passing your trips, right? But in jet world, it's not like that, is it? And the first time she failed, if she'd been on a tanker over North Syria where they're going to cut her head off when she ejects on if that's the point she fails, then right. She is actually dead on that point. There's no, she's just dead. So you've got to give her that adversity and you've got to fail her. So although she would never have really failed technically the course, and she probably would have scraped onto Typhoon, then it's a level up, isn't it? So now every step is a level up. You've got to fail people at some point, and you're not doing it to be a dick. I'm not failing everyone to be a dick. I'm failing it because if I didn't fail at that point, she is going to die at some point, and she may kill other people as well in the process. So, but yeah, you're right. People like us understand that. I got so much hate from the airline community, from captains and stuff. I got a lot of hate from it. It was a bit, it's a bit weird. At that time, I cared what people said. I don't care that anymore. I don't care about that. But back then, I did.
Tim, did you get pushback? Because one of the things I've seen doing these accident investigation board reports is the culture has kind of shifted. We've seen more mishaps because we've allowed ourselves to get away from that mentality, and there's just not the capacity. The training capacity doesn't exist to get people excess rides, and if they don't have to, they're like, push it on. I did one mishap board report where the kid had never refueled until he was at his operational squadron. They put him in a night surface suppression of enemy air defense, and then he came back and he beat himself up, and he just couldn't land, and then the ejection seat failed at the very last thing. And that was horrible because they set this kid up for failure.
Yeah, that's right.
Have you seen this kind of trend on your side as well of, this we're lowering standards because we can't produce what we used to be able to produce?
So that was an F-16 guy that came back, wasn't it, young boy? that you're talking about. I read that report. That was awful. I took that one apart. We did a lot of that in the school about that. We trace it back, break the chain. James Readiness models the break chain. Yeah, I saw the one you did briefly of the B1 as well. Was it the B1 that came in?
B1
that
where the ops group commander just got fired.
And the guy wrote that in a state of anger, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm gonna write a report. First off, I'm gonna have like 7 bottles of bourbon, and then I'm just gonna fucking type angrily. And they're all dicks. They're all dicks. Yeah, I saw that. I was like, fuck. That's I've read reports like that before, but historically, I think when we look at it, yeah, they're making their bed and they're lying it. We can see it's coming from miles off, right? And I was arguing against this forever. In fact, right now they're asking me to go back and fly at the age of 50. I know I look like I'm 27. They're gonna put me back in this airplane here to go and teach again at 50. I'm like, they wrote to me, in fact, the reason, this is pertinent, just a little segue. They said, come back and fly. I said, what are the terms? The same as what you left on. I said, yeah, I left those for a reason, because they weren't very good. You know what I mean? Why would I come back now? Because they sucked in the first place. Come back 5 years later. So they don't learn. And the thing about the Air Force, of course, is they don't have to learn, because they're all going to get a pension, as I was. I haven't got to change anything. You get these mavericks. You need mavericks in the service, by the way. You need the guys that are going to just flash up and just do something like, right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to speak to people nicely and see what happens. Or I'm going to change something on the squadron and have a barbecue on a Thursday and let the women come in and the dogs come in and we're going to have a great time. But we're going to miss 2 hours flying. Yeah, but everyone feels great and they feel valued. Yeah, but we're going to miss the program. But we feel fucking so you need people like that. And if you don't have those people, then people leave and they don't come back and everything else. So if you look at the Red Arrows, they're a classic case in point. I did an investigation into the Red Arrows back in 2011 into a friend of mine who was killed called John Eggin. He lived with my brother at university, lovely bloke, and I just walked up Mount Snowdon with him a couple of weeks before. In fact, the test they do in the Red Arrows, when you go to Cyprus for the Reds, they put you in the jet, they fly you. They used to get you smashed up drunk, like, see how you're going to perform. It's so old school and British. You got to do it at both ends. You got to be able to go out in Limassol and go, hey, ladies, lager, and get in the jet the next day and fly. And that actually got blown apart about a year ago. Someone kind of went, I think this might be a bit unprofessional. Are we allowed to? We better stop this shit.
Send it. Exactly. Yeah, YouTube will let us know.
So yeah, exactly. Thank you. So it's so they did that anyway. John, before they do the barrel roll and the loop, and he came. I flew with John. I flew his aerobatics with him, so I knew John quite well. And he went into the team, and I think it was his second year, and he broke at Bournemouth, the last display of the season. His wife was on the ground as well. So at the seafront, luckily, when he broke at the airfield, he became unconscious. It was actually P-lock or A-lock, which is an American term, not G-lock that we all know. So it's a partial loss of consciousness. And he impacted the ground with a slight recovery beforehand, impacted the ground. So that was 2011. Now, before that, they'd had 2 aircraft hit each other in the Red Arrows. Michael Ling ejected. Dave Montenegro became the boss. They hit each other because they hadn't called the points at the right time. Then they had 7 weeks after John was killed, I was at Scampton doing the service inquiry. I was supposed to fly that morning in Red One's aircraft to do the evaluation on the ADR, accident data recorder, and the data acquisition unit to make sure what you saw on the CSI, your combined speed indicator, trying to translate this into civilian stuff, what you saw in your speedo was the same as what was going into the black box of the aircraft when it was measured, to make sure the speed. But that morning it was too foggy, so a guy called Sean Cunningham, good dude, just an absolute player with the ladies, real lad, right? He came up and said, Tim, you're not gonna be able to fly, the weather's too bad. I'll take the jet over with another couple of guys to Valley. We do some sorties over there, and I'll go and have lunch with your wife. That's how much of a player he was, you know what I mean? And Red 5, he crewed into the jet. And on crewing in on the control check, he had a control restriction. And as he forced through the control restriction, the seat fired him through. And the seat had been over tightened on the Martin Baker seat. The scissor shackle had been over tightened against SAPs. And the drogue came out, but the main chute didn't deploy, and he impacted the ground and was killed. And that was on the morning. That was 7 weeks later in the Red Arrows. Wow. So now as a service inquiry, team investigating one fatality on the Red Arrows, we're now witnessing the second, which never happened before. So everyone we'd told, all the witnesses for the first one that we'd interviewed, saying, no, it just stays with this. And all of a sudden now, because we could be interviewed by the police, who are actually very good about it because they didn't know what the hell was going on, we could then potentially release all the information for a second service. It was really ugly. The whole thing was ugly. So we left them. So that was the other one. And then a few years later, a friend of mine, Dave Stark, was flying a PFL profile in the Red Arrows again. He was a brand new on the team. Currencies were messed up. Like PFL currency, they could do several different PFL currencies. Engine failure after takeoff, turnbacks. They could do a normal PFL. And on squadrons, we'd list them as like 3 separate events. But on the Reds, they just say PFL. And no one would know what PFL was. They would just say PFL. So he was trying something that was never going to be valid. Like the parameter was way off. From the moment he closed the throttle and turned downwind, never getting back to the airfield. Like it's never going to happen. Like you could see it. You're like, Yeah, you're not even at circuit height, dude. How the fuck's this? You know what I mean? It's never gonna happen. But he was very new. The Reds kind of were trying to get his currencies up by sending him off to do them, and he had an engineer in the back. So an engineer from the Blues, who of course he's as a Pax, this dude. You know what I mean? There's no command eject. Well, there's a command eject in the Hawk, but rear to front. This guy's flying in the back. There's no front to back. Reds pilots flying the front, and then he messed up the PFL, stalled the jet on final, and very close, about 300 foot to the ground, which should have been survivable. There's no, on the Hawk T1, there's no stall warner, no ground proximity warning system, no TCAS, no rad out, nothing. Just old school, you know, man's airplane,
like
right?
T-38, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Except we put a wing on ours. We had a wing on the Hawk, though. We put a wing. So,
Of course. What's
you
that
guys,
like? Yeah.
you went, we're gonna starfighter this shit. We're gonna starfighter it right up. Bang, there we go. And let's use that as a trainer, because that's gonna be ideal to put guys onto high aspect aircraft or high, you know, like the F-35.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna use it. We're gonna still use it today because the T7. Well, we're not really gonna bring that in because it's a bit complex. I don't know what you guys. We could talk about T7 in a minute. You know what I'm saying?
Perfect.
We're doing that. We're probably gonna buy that off you as well. Like, what's it gonna do? Put twin tails on it. We're gonna do it high speed. No one needs that stuff. No one needs it. But let's make it anyway. So apart from that, yeah, keep that T-38. I know guys training on the T-38, they're phoning me up going, yeah, it's a little bit kind of old school. It's like, fuck yeah, it is. 1960, like, you know, when birds were learning to fly, you built the T-38. So apart from that, anyway, so they killed. So he killed the engineer on ejection. The engineer hit the ground, unfortunately, stayed in the aircraft and burnt to death. So, but Dave did swing once in a parachute, impact the runway. So that was it. And then they started major investigations into the Reds. So the Reds are the most unsafe display team in the world still. And you can look through the history on that. That's one of those things. And it kind of, coming back to your initial question, that's the mentality that was allowed to foster. We had a whole world of investigation into that, how they were treating women, everything else. It was pretty crazy, pretty, like, everyone in the Air Force knew this was happening in the team, and the seniors still allowed that to kind of carry on. You still allowed it to manifest itself. You know what I mean? That was a problem. So I think with accidents, we're not seeing necessarily. I don't think we're seeing. I don't think we have the rate of flying that you have. For example, on this airplane here, it's got like 5 movements a day now. Yet when I was on it, it had like 40 or 50. So I think the only thing missing at the moment, because the engine issues and stuff like this, is the volume. When we start seeing volume,
Yeah.
I think we're probably going to see that. And the other thing with the Air Force that you have to remember is when they took a survey, I think it was last year, only 18%, that's 18% of the Air Force had any confidence in the leadership. Now the leadership has since changed, but you got 18% confidence in the leadership. I'd never seen that before. You know, that to me was, yeah, that's pretty awful.
Wow.
Well, I mean, you probably remember, I mean, I remember in 2008 to 2012 flying the F-16 when we would have these briefs and they'd be like, yeah, this country's flying, 69 hours a year. And we'd all laugh like, oh, those guys suck. They're going to be terrible. And now you look at how many hours.
Here we are.
Especially when you look at a mishap report, you're looking at the 30, 60, 90, and you're looking at the look back and you're like, these dudes aren't flying. These guys, they're showing up. And how do you replace that? Are they also looking at replacing real flying with simulator flying there? And how do you feel about, reducing actual cockpit time?
Yeah, it's the next big thing. So Red 6, that company that do that VR, was it augmented stuff, isn't it? They've gone up to the Hawk T2. The Hawk T2's got issues with the engine, obviously, from the 951 door, so the compressor issue. And of course, we're never going to get that. It's a failure. So let's say what it is now, because I'm going to jail anyway, right? You know what I'm saying? But we're going to jail. No, we're going to jail. So the UKMFGS with the Hawk up at Valley, the Fastjet flying training pipeline is fundamentally broken. This is why we're putting guys out in Italy right now, and we're sending guys across to NJEPs as well on the T-38. We've got instructors out there, and we've also got students out there at the moment on NJEPs. But these people don't have capacity. When I was in there, we knew things were happening, and I was trying to find capacity around the world, phoning up, hello, Argentina, have you got capacity to train some British students? Have you? Well, let's have a think about that, shall we? But so I was trying to find capacity. Now, the thing about flight schools, if you're running a flight school properly, of course, you're not running it with some spare capacity. Everything's leaned right down because that's how we save costs. So no one really had capacity. So we do struggle to find places to put these guys through. So yeah, I mean, there's issues all around. I think with the augmented reality, that's not the solution. The power that thing needs cannot be contained in this airplane. So when you're beaming things on headsets outside the airplane, it takes a lot of power. And I think the recent trial on this, I don't think they could actually fully support it in the airplane because you've got to put this power unit somewhere. So that's some development work that needs to be done. Personally, I'll tell you what, I'm not just saying it now, but my score is a very good, cheap, low-cost answer for getting guys through. The workflows, everything else, getting people into just checks and prioritization, airmanship, captaincy, all the stuff that we know and love. And on bloody DCS, it's free, for crying out loud. So, but the Air Force doesn't seem to want to embrace this either. I think the Air Force worries about guys sitting in a Hornet and getting switchology for the Hornet and then jumping into T2 for real and actually messing that switchology up. And I know to us, it's like, well, it's, of course you're not going to, but it is a valid concern. So it hasn't fully worked out yet, the Air Force, how to embrace, I think, new technologies. The Air Force will always lag. I used to have a go at the Air Force, but I realized that one of the strengths of the Air Force is its conservatism. If that makes sense. Because if it changes everything all the time, then you're just going to fuck shit up quickly. So it needs to develop and go through processes and stages. And as much as I love Mavericks, and a lot of the best students I had were these Maverick characters, which you needed to sort of contain. But when you let them out of the box onto the front line, they did amazing things and they solved a huge world of problems. You do need to kind of contain them. You do need to control them because they wouldn't control themselves. So they are looking at alternative solutions. I just think at the moment, it just takes time for those things to go through. And of course, one of the things and I don't want to keep talking here, even though I am your guest. All right.
That's the point. Yeah. That's
Keep
why we're
going.
here. Yeah, that's how this works.
Exactly. Yeah. I say that on news programs sometimes when the newscaster is having a go at the guest. I'm like, hang on. I go on like some of these programs in this, and sometimes people have a go at me. I'm like, can I be the guest for a second? And can I answer the question you just asked me? You know what I mean? Can I just, but then they shut me off and they don't like me anymore. I don't really do many of those now. But like with drone proliferation and things like that, we never really saw that coming in Ukraine. You've got battlefield tanks, haven't you, been taken out by small drones made by a Chinese kid in a sweat factory. I mean, it's just that kind of stuff. And I think we are needing to rapidly, I'll tell you what the Air Force is good at. I like this. I'm starting skateboarding this year, by the way. Age of 50, #hero. I know what you're thinking. Yes, I am going to be awesome.
Your knee's going to look like Gonky's.
It's the ankles, apparently. 50-odd ankles, you know what I mean? Apparently, we have to stretch now when we do sports and stuff. So I'm going to be skateboarding. I'll be at the skate park with my helmet on, my elbow pads. But, trying to embrace this new technology. But the Air Force have got gamers. They've got a gaming league. So these guys come together, kids, it's just long hair and stuff. They sit there and they do gaming. And then I think they use that kind of experience of gaming to feed back into whatever the Air Force is supposed to be developing. Our Air Force is not very good. It doesn't really have it has operational evaluation units for the aircraft. So the F-35 has an OEU, an operational evaluation unit. We'll take the F-35 in, we'll evaluate it, we'll look at tactics and procedures. It doesn't really have anything. It says it does. It doesn't really work for wildcards coming in and saying, wouldn't it be a good idea if we did this? Like, this is a video game. Like Tim's using a video game. Like Tim is teaching 200 people to do F-18 boat work. Like I know what I'm talking about, but that's at the back end. That's at the back end of the course. I'm like, by the way, now we've learned the syllabus for all the Air Force stuff. Let's go to the boat like that, and everyone's like, what the fuck's going on? So it's
not
quite
that hard.
Yeah, exactly. It's like just do this and this, and then just hit the deck, and things happen, right?
That's right. Hook down.
It's like, I met a couple of guys that did it before. They didn't seem that clever. It's going to be all right. You know what I mean? It'll be fine. So, but they do that. So, and then we teach that. But I'm just doing it on a video game, and the guys are turning up with a virtual reality headset. So if I'm doing that, that should be someone in the Air Force should be leaning into this a little bit and going, how do we leverage this low cost application? And just the Italians use it, the French Air Force use it. I think there's other people that use it out there, and I know that Mover doesn't like it, right? So don't tell him about it because he doesn't like it. He slags it right off the whole time. He's like, DCS sucks. I hate DCS.
Tim, he's the closet DCS player. That's why he just throttles me every time. Every time we fight, like
no, Gonky, it's because I'm superior.
Well,
the tactics, it does DCS. The tactics remain the same, sir.
It's all the training, dude. I don't train.
I'm just saying. Yeah,
it's my channel. I'm the boss. It's my channel.
Same thing happened in real life. Tim, what do you guys call Fat Amy there? Do you have a call sign or a nickname for that aircraft? Or
they call it the Battle Penguin.
Nice.
So
nice.
Yeah. So Fat Amy, my goodness. Yeah, the Battle Penguin. I know guys that come off it. It does have that look. I know guys that have come off it, and you ask him why. You're like, I met a guy in industry when I used to be working in industry. I don't work in industry anymore, so I don't work in defense. And I was working there for someone big in industry. And I met this other guy, and he was like, Squadron Davies, is it? I'm like, yeah, mate. He goes, I was on course 4 or whatever. I'm like, oh, I remember you. Yeah, what's up? He goes, I work here now. But he went on to F-35, did 3 years and left, or 3 and a bit years and left. And I said, why did you leave F-35? He said, well, it's like one of the big misconceptions that we have as pilots is that the next aircraft type I fly is going to make me happy, right? You know what I'm saying? That's going to, all my goals, everything, I'm going to be that guy. And what they were finding was when the F-35 came in, they were shipping out guys from Typhoon, whatever, or ex-GR guys like me, ex-Tornado guys, out to the F-35, wherever it was being based out in Southern America somewhere. And of course, guys getting there in the same, you guys call it creep, I think it is. We call it nose.
That's an
like
Air Force
admin.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, is the Navy got something similar? Is it? Because we call it a nose, like just nose, nauseous.
Yeah, the Navy didn't have a nice word like queep, but
yeah, I don't even know what creep means. The Air Force are weird, but it's the same stuff, right? So it's all the stuff you don't want to be doing, like everything that can detract from you actually getting in an airplane.
Yeah.
It's like fuck, So they found that when they got there, everything was exactly the same. The life was just as shit, and now they had to learn a new airplane. And the airplane, it just, and they're like fuck, and the wives have been moved out with them, and their kids are out there trying to join some school, and it just had an airplane with a different name. So they did 3 years, and a lot of the time, remember, the guys weren't flying as well. So in the F-35, the guys do 1 or 2 trips a month. I don't know how it is now, but there was a lot of sim time happening, and not a lot of flying time. And the guy I was talking to, a few guys were like, just not flying as much as we really should be flying. If we go back old school, like the GR, I remember flying 2 or 3 times a day on this, night, day into night, night into day, crikey, crazy stuff. And it's plan, we do, bomber guys are, we plan for 3 hours. We fly, and then the debrief is like, bombs on target, yep, bar, go, bar. That's it. That's it. Whereas the fighter guys, you go cigarette packet, what are we going to do? We go 8 shit walks, we're F-15s. Yeah, that's a pretty novel tactic. No one's going to guess that one. And then so it takes you 30 seconds to plan. You get airborne, but your debrief is 17 days long, isn't it? It's like 17 days. Like stop, Fox 2, what shot, Fox. And you just, I went to an air-to-air debrief once at Red Flags. I thought it'd be interesting. I'm never doing that again. I left halfway through. I was like, what are you guys doing? I like, literally, it's getting dark outside and the bars, honestly, we got to fly tomorrow. It's ridiculous. It was so long. And guys were arguing about the half mile here, the half mile there. Come on. Like, so being a bomber pilot was pretty cool. Did you hit the target or not? No, you're a dick. Go to the bar. Did you hit the target? Yes, I did. You're a legend. Go to the bar. It was a quick.
Yeah, there's no disputing dropping a bomb. It's like, well, did it hit it or not?
Yeah, and if you're a GR pilot, the question is, of course you hit it because you're flying GR.
Are there any movies about GR pilots?
There's one I made on my website. Obviously, I made lots of movies about it. Yeah, basically, the camera pointing on my face in it like that. It's the eyes of death. You know what? It's movies. There's lots of stuff you can find. There's some classic old school sort of tornado films from back in the day when they were using like clock run, stopwatch type thing, get the map up and all that kind of stuff. Those films are out there on YouTube. Yeah, I'll obviously send them to you because I know you're going to be
Mover Ruins. We got to get you on the Mover Ruins movies here. We got
you need to do that. I don't think there are no movies that you're going to get. It's not like Iron Eagle level. You know what I mean? Because
that's what I'm asking. I want to know what the Iron Eagle version or Firebirds.
Don't.
Perhaps
Iron Eagle is sacred. Sacred. We don't talk about Iron Eagle. I think they made 5. Was it 4 or 5 Iron Eagles?
We lost count.
Yeah, we don't talk. They all went down. If you look at IMBD as well, all the ratings just go down. They never come back up again. Like the last one's like 2.9 or something.
Are you familiar with Airwolf?
Yeah, Airwolf. Yeah,
another American classic that we have.
Yeah.
So going back to your flying career, because now we're off the rails. What's the scariest moment in an airplane?
Well, let's have a think. Well, it's probably when you go for the handle, isn't it? That's probably there's no fear, is there? Because we don't think in that kind of logic fear sense, because it's more acceptance of fate, isn't it, as opposed to fear. So it's all, I fuck this pretty much, haven't I? So going for the handle, yeah, and pretty much I think if I had to narrow it down to one, and this is quite a mature answer here, if I may say so. This is very self-deprecating and me being an absolute dick. I was quite a new instructor instructing instructors. So, but it's not, people that do instructors I don't know how it is over your place, but you find guys who really don't have an ego. Like the ego doesn't exist because it's an exceptionally dangerous thing to do because you pretend to be the student. So what you have to do as a student, you're in the front seat, and the new instructors who've come back from all these other jets, Typhoon, everything else. It takes us 9 months to train these guys up. It's slightly different. It's not an IP, it's a QFI. The QFI course, the Qualified Flying Instructor course, is an accredited Central Flying School course. Central Flying School is the oldest flying school in the world. It teaches Australian, it teaches all the Commonwealth pilots, Pakistan, it teaches everyone that's invested in Central Flying School. So as a Central Flying School accredited A2 QFI, And when a British person hears that, they realize that's probably as high as you're going to get on the instruction world. So I don't know, I was an A2 at the time, it might have been a B1, but I was flying with a guy, and I was in the front seat being a student, and he was in the back seat being a new instructor, and we're doing circuits. And what I was purposely doing was I was landing long, every circuit landing long. And what I'm wanting him to say is bring your aim point forwards. It's pretty simple, isn't it? Bring aim point forwards. But of course, if you do it to a student at the wrong time, and how we talk in the cockpit, this is what we teach in my school as well, is you can saturate people cognitively. Of course you can. The more we talk, which we've done today, of course, saturate your audience, the more that the people are going to listen to you. And if you're listening to them, then of course they're not processing cognitively what they should be doing brain to hand. And I knew this was going to happen to this guy because it's busy. Circuit work's busy, especially in a Hawk, you know what I mean? So with a bit of crosswind, everything else. And eventually I'm taking the piss now, like 4 circuits, I'm landing along each one, like beyond the numbers and everything else. And eventually they're coming through about 100 feet or something. At this point, he says, do you want to bring the aim point forward a little bit for me? And so I just put the stick forward, just push the nose down a little bit. And the moment I did that, I realized I put us in a really difficult position. Like this jet's almost fucking irrecoverable. The rate of descent, it's only such a small movement, but you're slow at that point. You've got no stick authority, of course. If the thing about the Hawk as well, the Hawk T2 had a heavy nose, and the wing, although we had a stall warner and alpha warner, we had a lot of things on the jet. The wing with full flap was stalling instant. It wasn't like the light buffet we all feel when we're in BFM. We can play that buffet level. With the full flap, it was a bang bang. It was like that quick, and the jet was stalled. Like the fucking wing, it had no left produced anymore. So as I pushed the nose forwards like this, I could hear the gasp in the rear seat as well as I was doing the same thing. Like, fuck, that's a big runway. It was like, fuck me, I've just put ourselves well outside seat. I mean, we're well outside seat anyway, you know what I mean? And so I started recovering like this, and I heard this kind of bang bang. And I realized I stalled the Hawk twice in the final turn before, but at about 700-800 feet, standard stall recovery, get the wings level, full power, and it will climb away, and eventually you'll climb away. But now we've got there's no height, and I just heard the wings stall. So of course what we do is we unload, standard stall recovery, full power, unload. It took the engine takes 9 seconds to spool up in the Hawk. It's Fisher Price, my first engine. You know what I mean? It's like, let's do that, and let's make an appointment for full power at some point. Anyway. And fuck me, we missed that runway, luckily, and we did climb back. But I look back at, like, as an example of what not to do. I mean, I could talk about not Afghanistan. I could talk about Iraq as well, where we pushed fuel levels, hit by lightning over Kirkuk, things like that, landed in Kirkuk, people trying to snipe and mortar the jet. But that's part of flying, right? Getting shot at and things like that. When you do it yourself and you've got another guy involved that you're about to kill, that's the stuff you think about at night a lot for years. And of course you come back to the squadron, and the guy in the back was like, oh, I just felt in the debrief, I felt that was, I probably told you to do. I was like, dude, my fault, 100%, fucking my fault. And let me talk about it. Let's get the tape out. Let's go and bring my own team in. I had to bring my own team of instructors in, 12 instructors, and we had a brief the next day. You put your hand up, you say, like, I kind of fucked it yesterday, and all my guys were like, I'd have probably done the same thing, but I'm never going to do that now. You know what I mean? Because that looks like the most horrible thing I've ever seen. So yeah, that to me was scary. I think you're outside seat limits. You're not going for the handle on that one. But other times when you've reached for the handle is normally heavy buffet, low to the ground, wing drop, and then you realize if you had fired the seat, you'd be out sideways anyway and both would be killed. So you put a boot full of rudder in, don't you? Unload the aircraft with power, and hopefully you're going to bounce off the runway somewhere. I think closer boards in BFM, they're just what happens, that stuff. But when you do it yourself, it just impacts a lot more.
Yeah.
You guys have probably got so much cooler stories. Like, I fired the Zamram and I just headbutt out of the way. It's like, fucking not today, Jesus, I'm alive.
Well, yeah.
So, well, more or less.
There's this one story where I was the team leader for this strike into this unknown territory, and I stole an F-14. But we're not going to talk about that.
I would tell you, but I can't.
Speaking of stories, are you going to write a book? Is there a book that I'm missing? Where's the book? You got a blog. Where's the book?
Well, my guys like your stories, actually. They like your books. They said that.
That's not me.
No,
I'm asking you.
Yeah,
this is the pointed question. The guest needs to talk.
I do these things where I write a book and don't publish it because I'm worried about what people might think about me.
I thought you just said. You just told us not to care.
Yeah, no, I did. I'm more talking about. Yeah, it's kind of weird because I wrote a book on sort of decision making in airplanes, and I didn't really. It's written. I didn't really go back to it, and now we're going back to it. One of the hardest things, and this is how I feel about it. You might feel differently because obviously you are more book written than I am. I find it much harder to go back and edit a book than actually start again.
100%. No, 1000%. Yeah.
Isn't it the weirdest thing?
So what
I'm doing is starting the fuck again and taking bits out of it that I'm going to use.
Outsource it. No, don't even look at it again. Outsource it and you're done.
Yeah, no, someone else said that. Someone said, send that to someone and get them to do it or whatever. And so I probably will do that. And there's obviously the blog post itself can go into something.
Yeah.
But I'm very much interested now in, as I age a lot, in communities, and I'm interested in that kind of that nurture of talent as opposed to.
I mean, you're obviously have stories. Now on my little cheat sheet here, usually I ask the guest how they got their call sign, so we're gonna skip that one. Probably not gonna make.
Why don't we ask how you got your call sign?
No, we've already
we told that story.
You've done this one already. Okay, so
it's an
American donkey. It's a donkey.
I can't, or else people knock on my door, including my parents.
Then we're saying "God save the king" here instead of there. But we do have some stuff from the audience that we probably should get to before we get to our topics. Tim says, "Good evening, sirs." Thank you, Tim.
Hello.
Keith Orr says, "Good evening, all." Mike Tyson. In case you didn't know, Gonky's a Mike Tyson aficionado.
Dude, you mess up one quote on this show, Tim. You live forever.
You shag one sheep. You're a sheep shag of a life, aren't you?
Pretty much.
Dan says, "Look, man, all you have to do is go to space once to be an astronaut." Dan O'Grady says, "Awesome episode last week. Thank you for talking about our small country's Air Force. Alpha was great. Looking forward to some RAF action this week."
Does he mean naked? Does he mean naked?
Army Navy games, DCS worldwide.
Yeah.
What a group of true gentlemen. Thanks for sharing with the DCS community. See,
welcome.
We like the DCS community.
No, you don't.
Gonky doesn't.
Support anything flying.
Gonky's like, my wife will divorce me if I do that. Pluterus says, "Hey, Tim, do all RAF planes have a boiling vessel for tea like all your armored vehicles do?"
My brother was a Hercules pilot, and they did. And I was always jealous because I just come up next to him like this, and he'd just look around the cockpit with a cup of tea at me and go,
"Funny you should mention that."
Dude.
Hey, there we are.
We have our own in the thing, and he hasn't deleted them. So obligatory. Gonky.
I was trying it on for size. I mean,
exactly.
I don't know how to say that. Schneppенfeiger, yeah. Off topic, but I'm still playing catch up in your Hilo vlogs. One question: if you could own one, which one? He literally just says Airwolf, so I'm skipping all of that to Airwolf. The answer is Airwolf. Next question.
Airwolf. The end.
Garrett, who says, "Just got back from OCS. Welcome back, man.
Welcome back, man.
Awesome to see this. That's great to see you guys. Great to have someone from over the pond. I was trained by Royal Marine Commando as well as at OCS.
That's cool.
You said you were doing patrols when you were first starting out. Does that not involve a rifle?
Yeah, so that was
what were you patrolling?
So it's long range reconnaissance patrols with camera patrol and the officer training corps, like your IOTC. So it's a 3-day exercise. The whole of the British Army. Well, in fact, everyone does it. So yeah, back then I was young. I was like in my early 20s. You know what I mean? Putting rounds down range. That was very gun orientated. But my father was a Royal Marine, you see, so I'm quite happy that guy's being trained by Royal. Yeah, quite good.
Absolutely. Dan also says, "Best pod out there. This episode's hilarious. Can't wait to see the red arrows over London. Dude, 2 a.m. 2 a.m. is where you shine.
You know it. That's it. My wife's gonna love it. By the way, I was chatting away here. She's gonna.
Thomas says, "Question for Tim: are you a Liverpool fan?"
Pompey, innit? Pompey, Portsmouth. That is.
What are all these words?
Yeah, does that mean you are?
About?
It's a football teams, isn't it? Football teams. So I'm not a Liverpool fan.
It's just NFL preseason right now.
You know what football is, don't you? It's where you actually kick a ball. You don't run down the field with it.
If you're fourth down and you got to make the 3 points, you kick the ball. But otherwise,
never understood that.
Get the touchdown.
Do you understand that no one else adopted your game in the entire world?
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? How many Super Bowls have you won? Your team hasn't won any Super Bowls. You know why? Because we're world champions.
It's like NBA World Championships. You're the guys that are playing. There's no one else involved. What are you talking about? It's like America won again.
We have our own championships here.
Yeah, exactly. At least someone
NASCAR world champions. The Islamic State says, "Gonky, how often do pilots in the Department of the Boat People train an anti-ship roll?" It sounds like he's asking in case he needs to square off against you, man. Did you ever train with the Harpoon or just LGBs versus fast boats?
Yeah.
This is,
a couple events every boat det. I mean, it wasn't on the highest priority list, to be honest. A couple times with the Harpoon. The Malaysians trained more with the Harpoon than I'd ever did in the Navy.
Did you ever train against the Exocet anti-ship missile?
How old are you? Seriously.
I watched Top Gun.
Yeah, but
What do you
the
think? You
Exocet.
think
You want to bring the French into
No.
this now? How come we having a happy conversation?
it's from the
Now you're bringing
movie? It's
my
from
world
Top
enemy
Gun.
into this.
That's the thing they have to defend against.
You know what, dude?
Exocet missile, my God.
I can't
don't know
remember.
what
We had the standard anti-ship missile that we trained against, and I'm getting the movie and the real
It's
thing mixed up.
literally
I can't
from the
remember.
movie. It's
I
from
know.
Top Gun.
I know it's from Top Gun, dude. Are you kidding?
Never mind. You guys, stop bullying me. Aethor says, reveal Gonky's call sign. We're already off the rails.
Better not.
Back. Tim, what is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow?
Exactly. Good Monty Python coming. It's brilliant. We've got the British crowd here.
AMT says, Mad Dogs and Englishmen in the noonday sun.
I was rowing today in a regatta, I think you'll find, in the sun. And yeah, I didn't have enough shade or tea. That's why. Hot.
Wait, do you guys have tea times during your briefs?
Yeah, we're British. Of course you do. What are you talking about?
So
you
will
guys
you delay takeoff? Will you delay a takeoff for a mission for tea time? Is what Mover's trying.
Well,
to
when
ask.
you come back in, you say to the student, "Get the tea, and I'll meet you in 5." What do you do? Do you not get a drink for the briefs?
We get a bag of jalapeno popcorn and a.
Oh, you do the popcorn machine? Yeah, no, we don't do that.
Yeah,
we don't have popcorn machines.
jalapeno popcorn. Joe says, my new favorite line, slightly paraphrased, I'm 69. I know I look 27. Damn.
Yeah, he needs to use that.
Mike Tyson said that. Yeah. Dan says, cheers, Tim, for the beer fun and for sharing the same king.
Now, we've got to worry about Canadians a little bit. We're all brothers here, Canadian people. I've got family in Nova Scotia. So I am. And my brother was in the Canadian Air Force as well. He left the Royal Air Force on Hercules to fly for the Canadians for 5 years. And now he's a 777 first officer with Emirates in Dubai.
So is that a natural progression to go to the airlines for you guys? Like here, it's like drop your papers, go to the airlines. What is kind of the after you do your 6 to 9 years, if you're getting out early, what do they do? What's the job?
Yeah, you normally become alcoholic, go through you're fucking joking. It's not divorce, alcoholism, get a bit fat, probably. It's all there, you know what I mean? The guys do the airlines, but over here it's quite difficult. You go through an ATPL or a CPL with a frozen ETPL. There's a lot of exams, it's quite expensive, and I know more people that have stopped those halfway through than have continued them. And also it tends to be from the multi-engine community more than anything. The jet guys tend to be quite busy being jet dudes, and by the time you think about ATPLs, you can't really do it at the same time. Whereas ATPL guys can do their whatever instrument thing, they can tend to do it on type if they can whilst they're flying, or there's a lot more they can do as multi-engine mates than jet mates can do. And the rotary mates can go to Bristow's or some other helicopter guys as well. So all the police, so they've got another out. When you're a jet guy, really all you can do is look at Saudi money or Middle East money. Which is pretty good.
Really?
But the guys tend to go out there. Most of my team went out to Saudi. Most of my team are in Saudi still, earning some big money out there. But again, getting divorced at the same time. So there's always that bonus, isn't there? You can have the money, but you can have the divorce alongside it. So
did you ever fly the Tornado in Saudi?
No, I never did in Saudi. Well, I in the UAE, obviously we're based out of Al Udeid Air Base.
Yeah. Because the Saudis have the GR4 too, right? Or the
they do.
I don't know if they still
do. They do, and the Typhoon. Yeah, I think they're still flying GR. Yeah, it was. You could have done that. I could have gone and flown GR out in Saudi. It's not that I didn't want to do it necessarily, but your wife kind of gets a vote. I've been with my wife since I was 18, and when you survived, it's always a bonus to survive. And you put her through a lot of pressure, and she has followed you around the Air Force. And then all of a sudden you come out, and you're going to tell her what next you're going to do. I mean, who are you, dude? It's like, come on, you left the Air Force, and your wife's saying she wants a nice little house with a picket fence, and she wants to have some rabbits and some alfalfa and have that life. And you say, no, we're going to go to Saudi just to really make sure the divorce is final. It's like, no, she gets a vote, right? So you kind of sacrifice quite a lot to make sure that, she's happy. And she is happy. Well, whenever wives ever happy, right? But she's happier than when I was in the military. And, that's just all it is. So no, I would have made a lot more money going out there. And there's a good community in Saudi. There's a good community of, especially Hawk guys up at Tobruk. A good community up there now. Very British now. Used to be quite Australian.
That's BAE, right? That's all BAE.
Yeah.
I actually applied to go when I.
Did you? Okay.
When I left the Navy, I applied, and I like it. It's like, how much hockey experience do you have? It was like a 69 hours as a student 15 years ago.
Yeah.
They never called me.
Yeah, it's not all roses, because a lot of guys get binned as well early on. The Saudis don't find you fit, so they don't fit in. And also, you speak to my guys out there, and they say, because they start flying at like 5 in the morning and they finish at like 3 in the afternoon because it gets so hot. I said, what do you do from 3 in the afternoon? He goes, one of my mates said, Yeah, it's like Chris Times, like Chris TV. All I do is stare at that fucking wall for about 9 hours, and then I go to bed. And you're like, that's your life. And my argument with that, if I'm going to be my serious head on right now, is the day you wake up with cancer and you realize you've been in Saudi for the last 5 years, whereas you could have been in England with the beautiful hills we have and great people. How much money is that worth? I'm a different guy like that. I'd rather be in poor, which I'm doing quite a good job at, but actually doing like a job I like, as opposed to being a Saudi with the big money, but then having a divorce and cancer and everything else.
Yeah,
just is that we're gonna die soon, right? We got another 20 years, 30 years left on this planet or something, so we better do something interesting.
You talk just like Mover and I do. It's funny.
Yeah, well, it's because we're lads, isn't it?
Like looking in a British mirror.
It's scary. Some of the stuff you've said.
Colin says, hey guys, wait, well, let me ask you this. If you went back and took the job, could you keep the beard?
No, they're being dicks about that. They're being absolute dicks. Yeah. And I'll tell you why. Now, I've argued with the Air Force over this as well, because there was a Canadian study. I'm actually quite friendly with guys from the Aviation Medical Training Wing at Henlow. It's just a bunch of dudes up there, and they do all the hypoxia training and everything else, and the G training and stuff. And they're nice guys. And I speak to them sometimes on my comments on YouTube or an email. They write to me when I put something out they disagree with. They write to me and let me know that I'm wrong. And then I never tell anyone. I pretend I'm still right. Okay, because it's my channel, isn't it? So get your own channel, right? You know what I mean? That's how it works, isn't it? But they do write to me, Tim, I think you're fine, actually, with hypoxia. I think you're fine. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And with the beards thing, there was a Canadian study that they did, which the Air Force has decided to discredit, where the beard, like a beard of less than a centimeter, makes no effect with a mask on under 40,000 feet, whatever. Blah, 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 blah. But the Air Force decided, in its infinite wisdom, to get these new young'uns in. It would allow, like, half spider tattoos on your face. Why not? You could have tattoos now. You could have like nose rings. You could have like triple nipple rings if you're a girl, whatever, or boy. What are girls and boys anyway? It's all blended. And they would allow beards to attract people in. I don't know whether it did work. Either way, all the pilots went, legends, we'll get some beards. And then they turned around and said, not jet guys. It was actually OAC 1 group, because he probably couldn't grow a beard, could he? So he felt a bit upset and went, no beards for pilots. All the pilots argued against it. And I tell you what, they're flying out of Saudi with beards. Explain that to me. And also, here's another thing. All the Saudi pilots, whatever, when they come over with beards, don't ask them to shave them off, do we? No. But all the Saudi students, everything else, they might well do now. But I'm telling you that now. So, because I'm telling you, it's obviously true. And if people find out, I'll just deny I ever said it. You know what I mean? So they did allow them to do it. When they first came over, they allowed them to have beards. So all the Air Force mates are clean shaven, and all these Saudi mates are like, massive, Islamic beard lives in here, flying in the jet, getting the mask over it, tucking it in. So it was a bit unfair. So if I went back, I'd have to get my shave off. And what I do, like in the Navy, I had massive sideburns down here because obviously when you train with the Air Force, you want to piss the Air Force off as much as you can because you're a naval officer, right? You're a legend. So you come out of Dartmouth, my sideburns were like down here somewhere. They were like just literally couldn't get them any longer around here, like literally touching there. And the Air Force hated it, hated it. So all the Navy mates would just grow the massive burners down here like that. And of course, beards, we grow beards and we fly with beards, pass the beard around the squadron. And have these massive burners. Your duty beard now, mate, all right? And it took us like 19 years to grow a beard because we're like 4. But it does, doesn't it? You just kind of try and shave it, like, come on, beard, come on, beard, come on. Yeah. But that's the thing. So no, I'd probably have to shave it off now and then become less of a man, obviously. No offense.
Not even worth it. Not even worth it. Not worth it. But anyway, Colin says, Tim, I enjoyed your mock loop Hawk T2 video. Any memorable mock loop stories?
I went down the loop the wrong way once. That was memorable. Seeing it's a flowed valley, I was maxed out like a tiger, and I was coming in from Barmouth in the lowest weather known to man. Like it would have killed a civilian. Like any other pilot in the world would not have been able to fly that low. But I was an Air Force mate, right? So I was legend. So I'm coming in through Barmouth. I've descended over the sea, IMC, and I'm getting down on my altimeter, and I'm allowed down to 250 foot over the sea. No rad out. Just on a Fisher Price altimeter made by the lowest bidder. So it gets down to 250 and I think I can see a couple of fish. So I'm like nipping down a bit lower and now Victor Mike, technically I'm all right. All right. Visually judged 250. What does that mean? I'm visually judging it as 250 feet. Don't ever do that with the French, by the way, in the Alpha Jets. They also visually judge 250 because they're idiots. They're flying like beneath pylons and shit. They're literally taking the piss out of your country. We have people on the side of the Mac Loop filming Alpha Jets, ducking like this, going, they didn't get good footage because these guys, the French are, they're just mentalist, ego-driven, aren't they? They're just crazy with their scarves and everything in their history. So I'm flying down, trying to find the Mac Loop entry. Am I going to slag the banner?
Get the banner. Yeah, anyway.
I was sorry for legal reasons. I like the French people. The French people are fun. We like French. So I'm down there trying to find the Mac Loop. I'm trying to work out whether it's going to be fit on the southern plain, so south of the Mac Loop. And to get to the south of the Mac Loop, you tend to have to go through the Mac Loop to get out the southern end, as it were. So you go through a town called Dalgethlw in the north, Welsh town, then you go through a town called Machynlleth in the south. So when you go down to Machynlleth, I had to just make the entry to the loop. So you could have come back on yourself about 150 degrees. And I came around, I couldn't see the entry because the cloud was too low. But I saw an entry and I thought that must be the entry. I dove into this valley. And as soon as I dove into the valley, I realized I'm the wrong way in the Mac Loop, IMC, without much of an abort option because it's big mountains next to me. And so I'm down there with this pitch I don't recognize anymore. And there's trucks coming the wrong way that are kind of avoiding me, the trucks. I'm like, so I actually came back on the squadron. I went, I think I made a mistake there. Do you want to have a look at the flight tape? And one of the flight, because I was a junior instructor at the time, one of the flight instructors went, that is the entry, mate. Is it, mate? That is entry. I think that's the entry. Isn't that the entry? We're in the entry, are we? And he went, that's not the entry, is it, mate? That's not the entry. No, we're not. So he said, I'd have done the same thing. Don't worry about it. Just don't tell anyone. So
Wow.
I don't think anyone else has been around the loop the wrong way before. Imagine meeting someone like another Typhoon mate or something coming up there.
Wow.
God, yes.
Supersonic Redhead.
Oh, I love Supersonic Redhead. Yeah, we're a Twitter
so happy
team.
to see you here.
We're a Twitter team. What's she paying you the big money? Pay me the big money. What's going on? This is divided up, right? What we're doing, divided up. She's lovely, actually. Yeah, she's one of the crazy ones that I love, and she's probably a little bit not as crazy as us, so that's all right. But she's great.
And then Ray says, awesome show. Tim is the best. Great to see y'all finally get together. Like you guys. Tim is a big advocate for mental health. Keep doing what you're doing. Great job, all of us.
Thanks,
yeah,
Ray.
that guy's he's throwing some big cash for your channel. That's awesome for him to do that, because I think it's really important that things like this get out and people realize they've got someone to come to, like your channel, where these things can be openly debated and stuff and discussed. It's really important.
And then Bob says, off topic, but the ruin attempt for the unruinable Sully was great. Everyone should watch. Also, the show is fabulous.
Thanks, Bob.
Well, that's what happens. We schedule it for 2 a.m. So we get
2 a.m. The hardcore fans come
version. AJS with a Porsche says, I think the two most well-known RAF jet guys are Tornado guys, Tim Davies and Colin McGregor.
Yeah, Cole's on 6 foot. He was a 617 guy. Ewan was his brother. Ewan was I didn't watch that Star. Is it not Star Trek? Star Wars, isn't it? Ewan was his brother. So Ewan is the actor, isn't he?
Oh,
Colin.
Yeah.
Colin was a top dude, actually.
I was thinking race car driver. Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, Ewan McGregor. He was in Star Wars.
Really?
Track Wars.
I don't watch that stuff. I don't have kids. It's apparently it's a film. It's quite a famous one. But yeah, Colin was, and I remember Colin brought him up to the base one day, and of course, where you bring an actor to a base full of Tornado mates, it's quite fun to meet him, but he's not the star, is he? You know what I'm saying? Right. But he's a nice guy. I think
my first skipper was a Tomcat guy, and he told me a story when Tom Cruise came into the O Club there at Miramar, and these two Tomcat guys walked up to him and said, "Hey man, you want an autograph?" And he said, "Sure." And so the Tomcat guys signed his paper in front of him and gave it to him, walked out.
Legends.
Yeah.
Can't be that kind of legends.
It's like awesome.
Yeah, there you go. I'll sign it. I'll sign your hand, mate. There you go. Brilliant.
Hey, Gonky.
Yes, sir.
Do you want to do the mental health minute now, or you want to do a topic? Because we've been here an hour and 45 minutes. We haven't done the first topic. Which one do you want to do?
Tim kind of talked. Now Tim kind of talked about.
What do you want to talk about? You want to talk the Brazil thing, or the Osprey, or the Eurofighter? What do you want to talk about?
You pick. Dealership. You brought it up. You pick one. You pick something.
Let's let Tim pick. Tim, what you want to talk about?
Yeah.
Girls. So is that it's early. It's early here.
Well, that would be this one. That actually fits perfectly for the mental health minute. If you
why don't you sent me some, I don't know, to get some links from you or something. You want to talk about, was it F-35s or those Air Force?
Yeah.
We talked about the Air Force problem. We got F-35s. We got, what is it? Our crews training abroad. We covered that, didn't we?
Yeah, we covered that.
We kind of organically covered everything.
Yeah, kind of covered everything, I guess. Unless you got something else you want to talk about.
Well, the only thing that's on the list is ATR or the V-22 mover.
Dude, I mean, there's really not much. It's a horrible video. We're not going to show that.
No, I don't show. I think people have seen it. But
there's the only thing I say to talk about is, I think we've all been either in training or, probably in a BFM unintentionally in a spin or even flat spin scenario. When I was in the F-16, they actually sent us out to Edwards and they put us in a flat spin. And if you're not ready for it and trained for it, and that's a horrific thing. I mean, it gets you in a situation where nothing seems to be going right. And I cannot imagine the pilots and the passengers, I mean, and just watching it from the ground, Tim, you do a lot. I mean, with your instruction stuff, I'm sure you do a lot of upset recovery and stuff like that. I mean, what's your take on just any of it, just from a flying perspective?
I'm not on what the ATR 72.
Yeah,
The ATR 72. You know, I'm not an airline dude, right? So I know it's got an icing issue. They've lost 40 of those aircraft. They've lost 40 of the aircraft have been lost apparently in its life, which is pretty significant.
Wow.
But it's got issues with icing, isn't it? At certain speeds and everything like that. I think that's obviously from that point it's probably irrecoverable. And you know what those pilots think in that cockpit. I think they weren't actually low hour pilots either. They were quite reasonable. So how you get yourself into that situation, I'm not overly convinced I fully know, but it's obviously through a stalled condition, isn't it, with high alpha, and then some aspect of yaw. I know there has been propeller issues where the propeller engine has failed and the prop hasn't actually feathered, so you would get a high drag on that particular wing and a yawing rotation moment, which of course could, especially close to the ground, there's no recovery. I don't know what the recovery action would be for an ATR 72. It's probably not written in any book because no one's ever done it. You know what I mean? And there's nothing you do. A lot of these aircraft, of course, you have stick shakers, and the flight control system will force the nose down, because if it doesn't do that, the aircraft will stall and will become unrecoverable. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the guy you want to ask is my kid brother. He's into that multi-engine stuff. You guys are into multi-engine stuff. You fly that stuff.
Just from I mean, so you trained? Did you guys do like deep stall, inverted, flat spin kind of stuff? Like to what level do you guys train in the jet trainers and the I guess T2?
Yeah.
Like what level are you guys training to that?
So we do unusual positions in instrument flying. So we get the students into 60 degrees nose high, either full power, idle, whatever it might be. And then they have to look at the speed and actually enact a recovery for that. We do nose low, slow speed, nose low, high speed, depending on whether they're above or below 300 knots. We do spinning, but it's erect spinning. We do inverted spinning on the Tucano. I don't know whether they're doing inverted spinning on the T6, but we did inverted spin the Tucano, which is that's a bit of a weird one, to be fair. The recovery actions I can't remember now, but it was put the stick somewhere and do something, and something else will happen, hopefully. Because if it doesn't, you're going to use this Fisher Price Northern Irish seat that might save you, might not, but not made. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty. We do deep stalls, of course. We do deep stalls. I teach deep stalls in the aircraft. We do high alpha handling on the F-18, and we do deep stall in the. We're held in the stall on the F-5, and the F-5 is very similar to the Hawk. It's just a little bit heavier. So all the teaching we did on the T2 and the T1, I just copied and pasted pretty much straight across. We use SBIRs, so slow reducing airspeed, attitude increasing buffet, stability, rate descent, stick fully aft, and then we work through a recovery action depending on the height, of course, and we go through the standard stall recovery. We also do full spinning, erect spin for the F5, which you can spin maximum of twice. Shouldn't spin the F5, but we do it in the school. So, and if you do more than 4, it's going to get very flat and irrecoverable. DCS models that quite well, in fact. We don't spin the F-18. Because to spin the F-18, as you guys know, you've actually got to put one engine in reheat, the other one at idle, and put full rudder in, and then it will give you the erect screens that you have to do something with. And then it gets magic, and I understand that, so we don't bother doing that.
Release speed off rudder, speed brake in, a control, throttles out, away, airspeed, you already checked.
Yeah, you guys do that. I just go, and then
you
just
did the recovery. You let go and scream, and it recovers.
Well, the OCF on the F5, where those dudes would rattle it off. See, in our briefs in the Navy, that's the one boldface they want everybody to know. So they'd be like, okay, departure spin. And they would point to a guy and he'd have to rattle off. And for the F5, it was like, what, 20 something? It was like,
it's fully forward, into spin, full opposite rudder.
It's all kinds of
stuff. Right side up, upside down.
I teach the centralized controls, and I do teach both, but for the first time we teach it, it's check height, idle, centralized controls. And it will recover in DCS. If it doesn't recover, then you can go into the fully forward, into spin aileron, full opposite rudder, wait for it all to stop. But you don't, when you're teaching young guys, teaching guys, so not young guys, like I'm teaching in there, you can't overload them cognitively. You'll load them up too quickly. So we break it down into simple steps. But yeah, we do full. We do full. I mean, we do everything that Hawk can do to show. And of course, when you're going to find that is probably slow speed scissors, isn't it, or something like that, in the using lots of rudder in ACM or BFM, and it's just going to depart on you. It's quite quick to recover, though. Again, if you check height, centralized, idle, I surge the hell out of that engine sometimes. The 951 is pretty good. It's got a FADEC in there, and you're going to be okay. And it's got good bird strike recovery as well. I've sucked a few birds down that thing. Darling, the Hawk T1, however, you can really surge that engine if you mishandle it and you put lots of rudder in air combat and high power with lots of backstick. she'll know. She'll let you know. It's like, I don't know what surge you have. It's like someone walk up to the cockpit with a baseball bat and just
Boom,
twassing
boom.
it. It's pretty
Yeah.
brutal, isn't it? With the flames. And you think,
Yeah, I remember in the T-45, the procedure was put it in military power, run the friction lock all the way. Don't touch it.
Yeah, okay. You did that. I had a FADAC
Yes.
on that, didn't it? Yeah, I can understand that one. Now we had to come back to idle in the T1
Oh,
because
wow.
she wanted to destroy herself otherwise.
Wow.
No, that was the keep it from Stalin. So like,
oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah, full power, unload, unload full power, wings level,
yeah.
climb away, try and use light buffet. It's all pretty
Yeah.
much similar on all aircraft, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. When I saw the video on this ATR thing, I mean, it has to be terrible. I just remember the first time spinning a military jet, and that was in a military jet ejection seat, and
yeah, it's violent.
they're like, we're going to go out and spin, right? So I knew it was coming, and the first rotation, it's still like, whoa, So
Yeah.
I mean,
there's no training for it in the airline world. There's no syllabus that says here's how to get out of a flat spin in a transport category.
I don't think you
aircraft, 'cause
can.
They don't spin. Yeah.
You can't get out of it. It's probably nothing to get out. The flight control system hasn't stopped you getting into it. It's not going to get you out of it.
No.
Yeah.
I think that's the key for there, and that's why it's unusual when we see it, because it shouldn't happen. Especially because the spin was very flat. Obviously, a spin's got three components, isn't it? It's got the roll, pitch, and the yaw. And if you're missing one of those, and technically it's not actually a spin, it's an accelerated roll or a dive, or whatever. But that seemed to be so flat. It didn't really have a pitching moment into it. It had a kind of like almost a rolling and a yawing moment, and that's what kept the aircraft flat. So you've got no airflow over the wing necessarily.
Yep.
And so therefore you've got no airflow over the tail, so the controls are doing nothing, and that's going to be an irrecoverable position. Was it a T-tail on the ATR?
Yeah.
So I think again, it's like anything, you've got no authority there whatsoever to get the nose down. I don't know how you could do it. Engine, the wing's right back there, isn't it, somewhere?
It'd have to be like Mover said at the start. I mean, I used to demo in the Hornet, like first flight, just to show them the flight controls. I would just go up at altitude, throttles idle, pull the stick all the way back, and eventually it would just really flat start falling, out of the sky. But that's very purposeful, put it in a deep stall like that, and of course with plenty of altitude and an airplane that can do it, right? So
yeah, sure.
I mean, it's they got the black boxes. They got the flight data recorder and stuff. So I'm sure that they'll piece it together, and we'll find out.
It could be ICE accreditation or something. Accreditation.
Yeah.
I don't know what that does. How that.
I
still don't understand it, but
we don't have any info. We're just
it's just, what, fatalities. I don't go into fatalities like before. I go into. I do a lot of stuff with things that aren't fatalities. So I mean, we had a mate of mine, Mark Schlong, or Slongy, the Slong dog, Mark Long, who died in a Spitfire accident with a Battle Britain Mora flight recently, and people are wanting me to go into that.
Oh yeah.
I flew a
Typhoon guy.
Typhoon guy. That's it, yeah.
It was dual call.
Yeah, that's right.
Both, right?
I mean, it's brutal because on your career, you spend so long BBMF and Typhoon, you're not getting promoted either. So a lot of guys are flight lieutenants to go do it. Here's a squadron leader did it. So you just spend a lot of time at weekends, and of course you got to, the wife has to be happy with you doing it because she never sees you, right? So you don't get any kind of time off from a Typhoon squadron because you're flying Spitfires on the weekend. So a lot of guys don't want to do it. It sounds awful because it's so time consuming. It's like guys don't want to fly in the Reds because every weekend you're away from home, so you never see your family. So it's not always roses. But he crashed the Spitfire and was killed. And people want me to speak about it on my channel. I mean, I flew with Mark for a long time. He's one of the happiest dudes ever, all the time. One of those really evil characters. Like, how can you be so happy all the time? Like, have you not realized we're living in this world with problems? But he was happy, and so, he's done something. So I don't speculate until the report comes out. And even when I do then talk about guys, I get a lot of pushback from other pilots for talking about it. Wrong. Other Air Force pilots who I think just want to chip away at something because of some deep insecurity they're probably withholding. I don't know. But I do think it's important to talk about these things. However, I do talk about incidents where there are not fatalities straight away, because you can then speculate and no one is, I like the one with the little Cessna you guys did, where the Cessna came quite close to the lake.
Oh, yeah.
So I talk about that all day because it's just comedy, isn't it? It's like Iron Eagle shit. Iron Eagle out there. That's what it is.
It probably was Doug Masters.
It was. Dougie. It was
Dougie.
It's brilliant. It's him.
We're working on Iron Eagle 10.
Yeah, you need to put some smoke on, didn't you? Get some smoke on there as well. Just do a little 12 the way out. Little lad. Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's talk mental health. So this came from somebody actually in the Discord, and it was talking about expect the unexpected. Things will go wrong. Not everything is going to go to plan, but step back and evaluate the situation and press on, short and sweet. And then another member said things will take longer than you think. And I think the reason we picked that, number one, because I thought it was cool, but two, I mean, how many times as fighter pilots or pilots, military pilots, civilian pilots, whatever, do you know, no plan survives first contact with the enemy, Gonky?
Nope, no quotes of me.
Mike Tyson there. But how many times does the plan just not work? Or, you have to adapt your plan, or some new variable shows up and you have to go, okay, I understand that, but we're going to still stick to the plan. So it's taking that step back and evaluating. And I think in life, we end up in these situations where we get this myopic view that the plan has to work exactly as we thought in the timeline that we thought. But in real life, it's not our timeline. We are not the ones that get to determine that. And some things take a while to work out, and it's not how we thought. So, especially when you're going through stuff, I went through a lot of stuff in the last couple of years, and, in the zoomed in view, which we talked about last week, you think, well, it's not working out now, it's never going to work out. But then 2 years later, you're looking at it going, well, that was just a blip on the radar, and now things have actually started working out. And I can't believe, it was that bad. You kind of forget, but the scars are always going to be there. So we always talk about, using your resources, use your friends, use your wingman. Tim, you've got a great resource, and I'll let you talk about that when you get to it. But use the resources you have available to kind of remind yourself to stay on top, stay on timeline, stay on plan, be patient, and let the picture settle. 988 is a good reference here in the U.S. If you're actually thinking about hurting yourself. Military One Source, chaplains, even if you have to call 911, just don't take a temporary problem and have a permanent solution to it and take your own life. So, Gonky, what do you think, man?
Yeah, when you first sent this to me, expect the unexpected, my first thought that came to mind was, you should always, like in the military, right? We're always striving to be at a certain level of readiness, always ready, right? It's like, hey, if we call you tomorrow, you're ready. What does that mean in life? And from a mental health point of view, to me, being ready is, being, physically fit, spiritual, and mental, your mental health squared away, good church, good family, good friends, surround yourself with good people. I just think the stronger that, I guess those would be your core things, would be physical, mental, spiritual, at least to me, the better you're going to be able to handle the unexpected, because there's no way to plan for everything that's going to happen to you, whether you're flying a fighter jet on a mission or in life in general. And I just think that's the best defense against that. But yeah, Mover, I mean, you pretty much nailed it. Tim, what do you think?
Well, my father was a traffic officer in the British police force, and he was an accident investigator as well. And he always said to me, death is what happens to you on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. You don't get someone knocking at your door telling you your wife's died on a Saturday afternoon when you're prepared for it. All right. You get a police officer knocking on your door. It's raining. It's Tuesday. You're scrabbling around the house doing something else, and then someone tells you that your wife's been killed in a road accident. So I wrote an essay about that on Fastjet Performance, and it was called "Death on the Roads." Something like "Life is what happens on a rainy Tuesday," something like that. You know what I mean? But the preparedness that we talk about, and I'm very much into spiritual. I'm a Catholic man, right? You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people are quite embarrassed about talking about the faith, but I was a Catholic man all the way through, and I went and flew jets for a while. I've come back leaning back into that faith now, because I think there's something about the community, or something about bigger than ourselves, that we can lean into. And if that means that having a bit of faith somewhere just means that you think, you know what, I'm going to go and hit the gym, or I'm just going to treat myself a bit better because maybe I need to be representing for people around me, if that makes sense. I need to just be showing that I'm willing to do the sacrificial work and the hardship. I mean, I went through obviously the alcohol, the suicidal ideation when I left the military. I've spoken all about this kind of stuff. And I went through that. So I do talk about it because it helps. I run a course for that now as well for guys. I don't talk about the course too much, but I do run the course for guys, and I run the school. So the preparedness, I think you're absolutely right. How do we do that? I hit the gym every morning. I don't want to. I don't want to be in the gym, but I have a gym in my house. I go out there for an hour and a half every morning, listen to a podcast. I'm not a music guy. I sometimes listen to nothing at all. All right. Vitamin iron. Just lift something up. Throw yourself on the floor. You can't be sad when you think you're going to be sick through exercise. There's just something about it.
Valid.
And we hate it, don't we? But you know what? When you're at that point where you don't want to do anything else, And it's hard when you're not in that correct headspace to go and do something purpose. I always talk about fitness, finance, family, and I add fuel onto that. And what I'm talking about fuel is actually making sure not only are we watching the right things, like this great podcast here, but also that we are taking in the correct nutrition, because of course it just, we are what we eat. So if you're stuffing bad food into yourself the whole time, alcohol, like I was for many, many years until about 18 months ago, the perspective you have and the resilience you have is going to be very different than if you're treating yourself properly. That's how I think about it.
Awesome. Doug?
Usual disclaimers apply. I'm fourth in the list.
Clean it up, man. You always do.
I've got a phrase that I used to use a lot. My wife reminded me of it recently, that the phrase is relax. Nothing is under control. It teaches you to let go of expectations. And at some level, expectations are pretty much a guarantee for disappointment. And nothing is ever going to go the way you expected, even, whether it's good or bad. And you guys have really kind of hit the major points. This is going to sound sort of like a summary. Just plan for what you can control, know what your competencies are, train the competencies. But when the time comes, you just have to have the confidence to realize you can handle this in the moment. And you may not have prepared for the exact scenario that you're going through, but like Tim said, if everything else is solid, you're going to be able to handle it.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Tim. It's always hits home, man. It hits home. And then I think the fact that you're doing stuff for mental health, Tim, is awesome. I think that's great that you're able to share what you've learned and experienced, and kind of combine two of your passions, jets and that. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, and you're still teaching, which is cool.
Yeah, teaching is pretty cool. I quite like that. I was trying to work out a passion for aviation. For me, it's in education, which sounds really weird. I get educated from my guys as well. With that kind of teaching about mental health, one of the things I don't really do is talk too much about mental health. And the reason I do that is because the more we talk about it, the more people, it's like if you tell someone they're an idiot enough times, they kind of believe it. And so we do that. Unfortunately, in our country, we do that with young white men. We tell them that they're worth nothing. We tell them they're far right. And now these young men, they believe they're violent. They believe they're far right. They believe they can't achieve anything, and they never go to university. And of course, they have these horrible lives because our government tells these young men that they're far right, and they tell them that they're worth nothing. So I'm very careful with when we talk about mental health. I talk about mental wealth, if we can use a phrase. I talk about that resilience that you guys are covering here, and I talk about like nobody's coming to save you. All right, as much as we want to help you, no one's coming to save you. You know how it is when you're in a single cockpit. There's no one else there. What's the first? You have an emergency. Well, you can speak to air traffic. What are they going to do? I'm not going to speak to air traffic. I might let them know I'm ejecting if I feel generous, and I'm going to drop. I'm going to drop. I'm going to drop it on an orphanage or maybe a nunnery. I might tell them, Let them know. I'm not going to speak to air traffic. They get in my cockpit and comms jam my brain. I'm not going to do it. So again, we just got to be careful how we kind of communicate this a little bit, because you can be your own savior. The unknown unknowns are always going to be out there. There are things we don't know, we don't even know. They're going to hit you, right? So what is the best thing to do? I say this 1,000 times. I'll let you guys go. I know you're going to shut me off. It's fine. I understand that. I could talk forever. When times get really difficult, go and find a car park. If busier, the better. I couldn't care less. More people in the car park, the better. If it's raining, even better. If it's raining, all right? And just take your top off and do burpees until you cry. Just do burpees until you can't do anymore. All right, you'll feel a lot better. Everyone will laugh at you. Everyone's going to tell you you're a dick. Everyone's going to, what's that guy doing over there? They're going to laugh at him. There is going to be a man that walks past you wishing he was doing what you're doing. And every man will appreciate what you're doing. They'll be like, fuck me, that guy's in jeans doing burpees in a car park in the rain. Because that man's trying to find himself again, and it works. Yeah. I'm a big fan. It works. It really does work. Okay. Because we're really connecting with ourselves in a very body, spiritual and a physical way. The brain doesn't lead us, but the body really does. And I believe that. And that's the kind of stuff I teach. So.
And this is why you're 50 going on 27.
That's right.
You said it, not me. You said it. Right? Exactly. I didn't say it.
And this is why you need to write the damn book. I don't know what I have to. What else? I've listened to you for 2 hours, and I could have told you this in 15 minutes.
Whatever.
You need the book.
Hey, you've got the draft done, right? Just hire somebody. Easy.
I'll get the transcript here and just
exactly. I was about to say that. Just copy and paste the transcript for what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Make sure you spell Gonky with an R. Gronky.
It's gonna be donkey. Donkey with an E.
Donkey with an E. Interviewing Tim.
Yeah.
With no call. Well, then all the jokes won't really be me, because there's only one way to spell Gonky. So some other Gonky.
Yeah. I don't know who that guy is. Yeah.
God save the king. I All right, just real quick. Love you guys from James. We had tornadoes come to Beaufort on occasion. That's awesome.
Legend. Yeah.
And
Cool.
Ewan McGregor from Jander's back. Black Hawk Down.
He
Fine
was,
film.
wasn't he? He was in Black Hawk Down. Yeah, he was.
I think he was 7.
Yes. He was 7.
7 what?
7 or 8 years old.
In Black Hawk Down?
He was very young.
Really?
It's one of his first films, I think, wasn't it? I think it's one of his first films he did.
Wow.
There's no 7-year-olds. Just the kid with the cell phone.
He's a young soldier going into Mogadishu.
He's not indigenous.
It's a turn of phrase. 7.
Yeah. Mike C says nothing, but thank you,
Thanks,
Mike. Hey, is that a helicopter helmet?
Be careful there, Mike. Be careful, mate. All right. Don't bring that to the show. We don't want to see that anymore. All right, thank you. Let's keep it masculine, please. Come on. Let's get any stuff here.
John said, look, how American is it that?
Oh, yeah.
You got the gun. Tim, thanks, Tim, for sharing your quotes and allow us to see what our brothers across the pond are hilarious.
Come and save us. Our country is getting taken over by socialists.
He's blinking.
I'm not even joking. Yeah.
He's blinking the tap code. It's the tap code.
Tim Davies was an amazing, hilarious guest.
You're amazing.
Have him back again.
You're amazing. Another long username.
You don't hear the
person.
Lobbies. Put down your tea. We're coming in. All right.
You miss it. In it. You've changed. It used to be all right. I used to like your show. I don't like it anymore.
That's funny.
Slagging off tea. Outrageous. How dare you? Of all the things you could have said to an Englishman, you bring up tea. Like, are you going to do that now?
You did.
You ever watch, what was that John Goodman movie where they made him the king? You know what I'm talking about? It's Poland, and they're like, would you like some spotted dick? And he's like, what?
That's how it is here, by the way. We all speak like that, and we're all friends with the Queen when she was alive. We're friends with the Queen. Yeah, it's a bit like that here, but it's not anymore, though, of course, because we have these people that are going to overthrow the country. So we have to come and save us.
Chatting with you, Tim. If the aliens ever attack, I can call you up on that phone in Iraq and tell you how to beat the aliens, and I feel like you got it.
Could have been that barbecue. Yeah, exactly.
like I can call, let you know how I figured it out. It's because I'm American, obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
And I feel like we could work together.
I'm sure we can work something out. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because you'll be next, by the way. I thought you were going to be first. Honestly, I thought you'd be first. When Kamala gets in, of course, you guys are in trouble. You don't even realize it yet, do you? Oh, you guys are in such trouble.
Listen, you guys are like our canary in the coal mine. You ever heard that?
Yeah, we've heard that. Yeah. So what? Kamala's the canary, is she, or something?
No. The UK.
Oh, we are. Oh, yeah.
The UK is the canary.
It's like Ireland is ours. So we look at Ireland, what's happening in Ireland. It's like, you're burning everything already, are you? That's quite quick for Irish people. Fine, that's us next. We're burning everything, are we? Okay, cool. And then America's going to be burning everything. So yeah, absolutely. When Ireland burnt everything, it was like literally 2 weeks later we started burning everything. Except we're kind of English, so we'd rather sit and drink tea and watch things for a little bit more. So when it kicks off, though, we are going to go and take over the world again. Because that's obviously what we do. We have nothing else to do. We live on an island. We're a bit bored. Just like the reason we have this water around the island is not so we keep people out, obviously, because that hasn't worked, is it? It's to keep them in. When the shit goes down, you better be ready. You know what I'm saying? It's a moat. That's the whole point. They're not going anywhere. They're not going. So that's the problem. They don't realize.
That's why Alcatraz was so successful.
Yeah, that's right. It's a trap. People can't get out. They're like, we're going to take over the country. You're stuck, aren't you? You haven't got any boats now. So what are you going to do now? Because we got the humor and the sarcasm. That's the thing. So we're going to just be sarcastic to them until they leave.
That's awesome.
Okay.
It's a tactic.
Well, thanks for coming on the show. We really
dude, thanks, man. We'll have to have you on again, man.
It's 3 a.m. I'm not coming on again. What are you talking about?
No, we'll do a different time.
Yeah, work at English time, crying out loud. We didn't make the world after all. What's going on? Oh, look, she hasn't moved.
No, she wasn't here for half the show. She just decided it's time.
Oh, right. Okay. She's sensible. Yeah.
This is bedtime. That's what she says.
That's what sensible people should be doing, not being on American chat shows. Idiots. I wish I'd done the maths on this one. I wish I'd done the maths on it, honestly.
You really are. You really are the British Gonky.
You literally told me, Tim, in an email.
It's so funny because you guys coordinated it. I had no part in it.
I didn't read it. I didn't read the email. It's just I saw the email.
In my defense, you cut me out every time you two talked. Every time there was a reply all, you cut me out. So I never got to be the voice of reason going, hey, what time is it there?
Yeah, you would have done that. You should have done that. So I noticed it. I'd have been like, hell no. What are you talking about?
True confessions, Mover and I we did spend about 3 minutes trying to figure it out, but then we were like, it's too hard.
I even had a program. I had like time program. I put it in there. I still couldn't work it out. I was like, does that mean is that in the morning? I was like, I'll do it. And then
I think at one point, Gonky and I were like, it's noon there. It'll be
yeah,
fine.
Literally, we're like,
yeah, I think I did the same thing. I was like, yeah, it's gonna be like, yeah, it'd be midday. I think I said it would be noon. Like somehow got it around the wrong way. How do we ever fly airplanes? I have no idea. I have no idea. It's like on flag when you work in Zulu time, and everyone's like, what the fuck does that shit mean? I have no idea. What time? Why are we working in Zulu? Why are we working local? We're on the same airfield. Why not working local time? I've never understood that. Reset your watch to Zulu. You're like in a hotel in Vegas or whatever. It's ridiculous time. Never understood it. I don't know why we do it. Anyway, haven't got that's right.
Well, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Tim.
We look forward to seeing you some more. Well, maybe we'll do some DCS or something because we do like DCS. And
it's not what my guys say. My guys say
thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you next week.
Thank you so much. We'll see you guys.
Yeah.
Bye.